Welcome, brave souls, to the desert landscapes, red rock canyons, and quiet oases of Arizona, where the sun burns hot by day and shadows lengthen at dusk. Beneath the beauty of these parks, dark histories linger, tragedies, disappearances, and restless spirits that emerge when the sun dips below the horizon. Tonight, we journey into the 25 haunted parks in Arizona, where shadows move at dusk, where swings sway without wind, footsteps echo along empty trails, and whispers ride the desert breeze. Papago Park in Phoenix is celebrated for its striking red sandstone formations, sprawling desert landscapes, and winding trails that attract hikers, nature enthusiasts, and tourists from across the country. Yet beneath its sun-soaked beauty lies a reputation far less well known. Reports of eerie and unexplained phenomena that have left visitors both awed and unsettled. Over the years, hikers, campers, and evening strollers have recounted sightings of shadowy figures moving among the sandstone formations. Whispers that seem to drift across empty trails and flickering lights appearing in the distance with no discernible source. These occurrences, persistent and mysterious, have earned Papago Park a reputation as a place where the natural and the supernatural seem to coexist. The park's unique topography, with its jagged buttes, caves, and narrow passageways, contributes to its otherworldly atmosphere. As daylight fades, shadows stretch across the red rock formations, often taking shapes that appear humanoid or animalistic. Visitors frequently report glimpsing figures that vanish the moment they attempt to focus on them. These shadowy presences are said to mimic the movements of hikers, appearing to follow or copy their steps along trails, only to dissolve into the darkness or behind rocks when approached directly. The sensation of being watched or mirrored adds a psychological intensity to the experience, blending the eerie with the awe-inspiring scenery. Whispers are a common element of the park's haunting. Hikers describe faint voices carried by the evening wind, seemingly coming from between rock crevices or empty spaces along the trails. Some report hearing names being called softly, while others describe fragments of conversations in languages that cannot be understood. The whispers are often intermittent, appearing when one is alone or when the sounds of the desert have quieted, enhancing the unsettling feeling that the park itself is alive with unseen activity. Even those walking in groups sometimes experience these murmurs, which seem to linger just out of reach, impossible to trace to any human source. Flickering lights are another frequently reported phenomenon. Visitors at dusk or night have noticed small, glowing orbs drifting among the sandstone formations, their brightness inconsistent, as if pulsating with intent. Some describe the light starting suddenly, weaving through the trails, or hovering near cliff edges before vanishing completely. These lights are often reported in areas that have no artificial sources, adding to the sense of mystery. Several hikers claim that the lights respond to movement, appearing closer or moving away depending on their approach, creating the impression of a conscious presence, observing and interacting with the living. The park's history adds further depth to its spectral reputation. Long before Phoenix existed, Papago Park was inhabited by Native American peoples, including the Hauntings, who left behind artifacts, petroglyphs, and ceremonial sites among the rocks. Later settlers and pioneers traversed the desert, leaving stories of disappearances, unexplained accidents, and odd sightings. Some researchers suggest that the park's hauntings may be connected to these historical layers, with residual energy or spiritual echoes from past lives embedded within the rock formations and trails. Locals have long warned that certain areas of the park, particularly at dusk or under heavy fog, are best approached with caution, as the boundary between natural beauty and eerie phenomena becomes thin. Many hikers describe a distinct psychological effect while in the park after dark. The interplay of natural shadows, flickering light, and echoing sounds can create disorientation and unease. Even familiar trails can feel alien, and ordinary rock formations may seem to shift or stretch as the mind attempts to interpret ambiguous shapes. The shadows that mimic movement are particularly disconcerting, as they appear almost human in form, yet vanish when examined directly. Visitors report a sensation of being stalked or silently followed, heightening tension and curiosity simultaneously. In addition to shadows and whispers, the park occasionally yields sudden gusts of cold air or unexplained breezes, even on still evenings. Rocks that seem stable may shift or produce creaking sounds, as though something unseen has passed. Some hikers have witnessed fleeting glimpses of figures perched atop sandstone outcrops, their forms faint and human-like, only to disappear when approached. Others recount seeing lights flicker across the horizon, separate from the city's glow, moving erratically in ways that suggest an intelligence behind them. These phenomena combine to create an experience that feels alive, reactive, and deeply mysterious. Paranormal investigators and enthusiasts have long been drawn to Papago Park. Audio recordings sometimes capture faint whispers or footsteps along empty trails. Cameras occasionally reveal shadowy figures moving in areas thought to be uninhabited. Some suggest that the park contains pockets of residual energy from centuries of human activity, blending Native American history, settler movements, and natural geological power to produce phenomena that challenge ordinary explanations. Scientists and historians often caution that natural optical illusions, wind patterns, and the interplay of light and shadow contribute to these experiences, yet the consistency and intensity of reports cannot be entirely dismissed. Despite its eerie reputation, Papago Park remains a popular destination for visitors seeking both natural beauty and an encounter with the unknown. Daytime hikers revel in the park's towering sandstone formations, scenic trails, and unique desert flora and fauna. Yet as evening approaches and shadows lengthen, a different character emerges, one defined by fleeting movements, whispers that ride the wind, and lights that appear without source. Some visitors leave with stories of awe and wonder, while others recount fear and unease, struck by the sensation that the park is alive with invisible observers. Camelback Mountain, rising sharply from the desert floor of Phoenix, is widely known for its rugged trails, panoramic vistas, and the challenge it presents to hikers and adventurers. Its distinctive silhouette, resembling the hump and head of a camel, dominates the skyline, drawing thousands of visitors each year who come to conquer its steep ascents and enjoy the sweeping views of the valley below. Yet alongside its popularity as a hiking destination, Camelback Mountain has long been the site of reports that defy easy explanation. Hikers and locals alike tell stories of ghostly figures appearing near the trails at dusk, footsteps echoing on empty paths, and dark shapes flitting in the corners of vision. Some claim these apparitions are the spirits of early settlers, trapped between the past and present, wandering the desert slopes that were once their home. The history of Camelback Mountain is deeply intertwined with the land and the people who lived on its slopes. Long before Phoenix was founded, Native American tribes traversed the area, leaving behind artifacts, petroglyphs, and traces of their daily lives. Later, settlers arrived in the region, building homes, ranches, and small communities at the mountain's base. Life on the desert slopes was difficult and often dangerous, with harsh heat, scarce water, and the constant threat of accidents or illness. Tales of tragedy and sudden loss were common, and some say that these intense experiences have left an enduring imprint on the mountain itself. Visitors today suggest that the spirits of those early inhabitants continue to linger, replaying fragments of their lives for anyone sensitive enough to notice. Many hikers report an immediate sense of unease as they approach the trails near dusk. The desert air grows cooler, shadows lengthen, and the terrain takes on a more dramatic, almost surreal character. Visitors frequently describe the feeling of being watched, a sensation that persists even in the company of others. Footsteps are commonly reported, echoing behind hikers or along adjacent paths where no one is visible. These sounds are often irregular, sometimes appearing closer than expected or receding into the distance, creating an impression that the mountain itself is alive with unseen movement. Shadowy figures are a recurring feature of Camelback Mountain's hauntings. Hikers describe seeing forms that appear humanoid yet lack distinct features, often glimpsed at the periphery of vision or just beyond rock formations. Some figures seem to mirror the hiker's movements, pacing along trails or pausing in silence, only to vanish when looked at directly. These encounters are usually brief, but leave a lasting impression, with witnesses often reporting a combination of fear, curiosity, and awe. Many suggest that the figures are tied to the mountain's history, perhaps representing settlers or early explorers, replaying moments of their lives in a spectral loop. The mountains, trails, and rocky outcrops provide a natural stage for these phenomena. Narrow paths, switchbacks, and cliffside ledges create areas where light and shadow play dramatically, amplifying the sense of movement. Hikers report seeing dark shapes dart behind boulders or along ridgelines, appearing to vanish as they attempt to focus on them. In some instances, figures have been seen at higher elevations, silhouetted against a fading sun or standing motionless near outcrops before disappearing into the desert below. The combination of terrain, light, and the observer's perception creates an environment that can be both breathtaking and disorienting. Auditory experiences are another element of Camelback Mountains. Hauntings, whispered voices, unintelligible murmurs, or sudden exclamations are occasionally heard along empty trails. These sounds are often reported when hikers are alone, intensifying the sense of isolation and vulnerability. Footsteps are the most frequently mentioned phenomenon, sometimes echoing in tandem with one's own, as though an invisible companion is following. These auditory cues, combined with visual sightings, reinforce the impression that the mountain is inhabited by entities that exist beyond the normal senses. The desert winds and natural elements seem to enhance the supernatural atmosphere. Gusts sweep across the slopes, carrying the faint sound of movement that may be natural or spectral. Shadows cast by rocks and cacti shift with the sun's descent, creating patterns that can appear animate. Many visitors note that the temperature drops suddenly in isolated spots, producing cold drafts that contrast sharply with the desert heat. These sudden changes heighten the impression that the mountain is responsive, with unseen presences influencing the environment in subtle ways. Local lore supports the notion of lingering spirits. Residents recount stories passed down through generations about settlers who perished on the slopes, travelers lost to sudden storms, and miners or explorers who disappeared without explanation. Some claim that these spirits remain tethered to the mountain, bound by unfinished business, attachment to the land, or the intensity of their depths. Hikers encountering shadows or hearing footsteps often feel that they are witnessing echoes of these past lives, moments replaying invisibly as part of the mountain's enduring memory. Paranormal enthusiasts and investigators have documented activity on Camelback Mountain. Audio devices sometimes capture footsteps, murmurs, or faint cries along empty trails. Cameras occasionally record shadowy figures moving among the rocks or standing silently at high vantage points. Temperature anomalies and sudden shifts in light are also frequently noted, while skeptics point to optical illusions, echoing terrain, and natural desert conditions as explanations. The consistency and detail of reports have made Camelback Mountain a focal point for those intrigued by the intersection of history and the unexplained. Echo Canyon Park, nestled in the heart of Phoenix, is renowned for its rugged desert landscape, towering rock formations, and winding trails that attract hikers, photographers, and outdoor enthusiasts year-round. Yet, amid the park's natural beauty lies a layer of mystery that has intrigued locals and visitors alike. For decades, people exploring Echo Canyon have reported phenomena that seem to defy explanation. Strange echoes that do not match their own voices, shadows moving independently of light, and fleeting figures darting between cacti and sandstone boulders. Some claim these occurrences are the lingering presence of spirits, trapped in the canyon and endlessly replaying moments from centuries past. The park's geology and layout contribute to its uncanny reputation. Echo Canyon is named for its acoustic sound bounces off the steep rock faces in unpredictable ways, sometimes creating echoes that seem delayed, distorted, or eerily human. Visitors have described speaking into the canyon and hearing their words return with strange inflections, phrases, or even responses that do not correspond to anything they said. Some report the echoes repeating partial sentences or whispering softly as if answering questions that were never asked. The effect is disorienting, amplifying the sensation that the canyon is alive, listening and responding to those who enter its depths. Shadows are another frequent source of unease. The desert sun casts long, jagged shapes across the rocks and trails, and many visitors claim that some shadows do not conform to any physical source. Figures appear to shift, move, or linger where no person or animal is present. Hikers often report glancing toward a formation only to see a dark silhouette retreating or vanishing behind a boulder. These shadows sometimes mimic the movements of visitors, appearing to follow their steps or gestures, yet disappear when approached directly. The effect is subtle but powerful, creating the feeling of being watched by entities unseen yet aware of every movement. Fleeting figures are occasionally reported at Echo Canyon, often glimpsed from the corner of the eye. Witnesses describe shapes moving quickly between cacti or disappearing behind sandstone cliffs, leaving only a sense of presence. These figures vary in form. Some appear human, dressed in attire reminiscent of early settlers or desert wanderers, while others are more abstract, as if shaped from shadow itself. Encounters are usually brief, but the impact is lasting, leaving hikers with a profound mixture of curiosity and unease. The park's history may offer insight into these strange experiences. Before Phoenix developed into a bustling city, the area was inhabited by Native American tribes, including the Hohokam, who left behind petroglyphs and ceremonial sites within the canyon. Later, settlers and prospectors traveled through the region, often facing harsh conditions and sudden danger. Accounts of lost travelers, sudden accidents, and disputes over water or territory are woven into local lore. Some believe that the intensity of these past events has left an imprint on Echo Canyon, creating residual energy that manifests as echoes, shadows, and spectral figures for modern visitors. Many hikers recount an immediate change in atmosphere as they descend into the canyon. The temperature can drop unexpectedly, and the narrow passages between rock formations amplify sounds, giving footsteps, whispers, and shifting stones an almost supernatural quality. Even in daylight, the canyon feels alive, with shadows stretching and twisting as if to suggest hidden presences. At dusk, when the sun dips below the surrounding ridges, the park becomes particularly eerie, and encounters with strange echoes or shifting shadows are more frequent. Auditory phenomena at Echo Canyon are especially pronounced. Visitors report hearing footsteps echoing behind them along empty trails, voices whispering indistinct words, or calls that seem to come from deeper within the canyon. Sometimes, these sounds occur in harmony with the echoes, producing the impression of an invisible chorus of voices, replaying conversations or events from long ago. The combination of sound, shadow, and movement heightens the sense that the canyon is not merely a geological formation, but a space in which the past continues to coexist with the present. Visual anomalies reinforce the auditory experiences. Rocks and cacti often form shapes that appear animate, and fleeting figures are regularly reported moving along ridges or disappearing into alcoves. Some hikers claim to have seen silhouettes resembling people performing daily tasks or engaging in disputes. Moments replayed with ghostly fidelity, as if the canyon preserves fragments of memory. These sightings, brief and elusive, create an atmosphere in which the ordinary landscape seems layered with echoes of lifelong past. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to Echo Canyon, seeking to document its unusual phenomena. Audio recorders capture echoes that seem to carry intonations foreign to natural acoustics, while cameras occasionally reveal shadowy forms moving across rock faces or along trails. Temperature drops and sudden gusts of wind are also noted, often coinciding with reported sightings or sounds. While skeptics attribute many experiences to optical illusions, the play of light, or the canyon's acoustic properties, the consistency of reports has made Echo Canyon a notable location for those intrigued by the intersection of history, psychology, and the unexplained. Despite, or perhaps because of its eerie reputation, Echo Canyon Park remains a popular destination. Visitors explore its trails, marvel at the red rock formations, and seek the thrill of experiencing something beyond the ordinary. Many leave with stories of strange echoes, shifting shadows, and fleeting figures, recounting moments that defy simple explanation, whether the phenomena are the product of residual energy, the imagination heightened by isolation and acoustics, or genuine encounters with spirits. The experiences remain vivid and unforgettable. South Mountain Park in Phoenix stretches across more than 16,000 acres, making it one of the largest municipal parks in the United States. Its rugged terrain, winding trails, and panoramic views of the city below attract hikers, bikers, and nature enthusiasts from across the region. Yet amid the park's natural splendor, there exists a reputation that is far less known, a history of eerie phenomena and haunted tales that unsettle even seasoned visitors. Over the years, hikers and locals have reported shadowy figures moving among the trails, whispers carried by the desert wind, and sudden cold spots in areas that should otherwise feel warm. Stories persist of hikers who, upon encountering these inexplicable occurrences, turned back in fear, unwilling to continue along the paths where unseen eyes seem to watch their every move. The history of South Mountain Park contributes to its reputation. Long before the city of Phoenix existed, Native American tribes, including the Hohokam, traversed and inhabited the mountain ranges, leaving behind artifacts, petroglyphs, and ceremonial sites. Later, settlers and ranchers made their way through the area, often struggling against a harsh desert environment. Accounts of accidents, disappearances, and unexplained deaths have been passed down through generations. Many locals believe that these intense events left a lingering presence, imprinting the land with the energy of past lives, grief, and unresolved events. It is this energy, they say, that manifests as shadows, whispers, and sudden drops in temperature. Visitors often sense the mountain's haunting nature upon entering the trails, particularly as daylight fades. The desert air, usually warm and dry, can suddenly grow cold, producing an unsettling chill that seems localized and unexplainable. Hikers report the sensation of invisible eyes tracking their movements, a feeling that intensifies when the trails narrow or wind sharply around rock formations. Shadows move independently of the natural light, sometimes darting between boulders or appearing along ridges where no one could possibly be. These glimpses are brief, yet they leave a strong impression, creating a sense that the mountain itself is alive with unseen observers. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported phenomena at South Mountain. Witnesses describe humanoid shapes that appear silently along trails, often just at the edge of perception. Some figures seem to mirror the movements of hikers, walking parallel or appearing to follow, only to vanish when directly looked at. Others stand motionless, observing silently before fading into the desert background. These apparitions are often associated with areas where hikers have historically gone missing or where trails pass close to ancient rock formations, lending an eerie historical context to the encounters. Auditory experiences are equally common in the park. Hikers report hearing whispers that seem carried by the wind, often coming from areas devoid of human presence. Some describe hearing their names called softly or fragments of conversations in unfamiliar tones, creating an unnerving feeling of being addressed by the unseen. Footsteps echo along empty trails, sometimes matching the pace of the visitor and other times appearing in irregular patterns, as if the sounds themselves are independent entities. These auditory phenomena, paired with visual sightings, enhance the perception of a supernatural presence that moves silently alongside the living. Certain areas of South Mountain are particularly active in these reports. Narrow canyons, shaded alcoves, and ridgelines where the desert floor drops steeply all seem to amplify the experiences. Hikers recount seeing figures perched atop boulders, standing on the edge of cliffs, or emerging from clusters of desert vegetation, only to vanish moments later. Flickering shadows often accompany these appearances, creating an atmosphere in which the landscape itself seems to shift subtly, suggesting forms where none should exist. The interplay of natural desert light, wind, and the human mind's interpretation of shapes contributes to the uncanny effect, yet many encounters defy simple explanation. Cold spots are another hallmark of the park's haunting reputation. Despite the generally warm and arid climate of Phoenix, hikers report sudden areas of frigid air that seem to envelop only themselves or specific portions of a trail. These drops in temperature often coincide with sightings of shadowy figures or the sensation of being followed. Visitors describe feeling an invisible presence beside or behind them, sometimes accompanied by the faint scent of smoke or desert flora. The combination of cold drafts, shadows, and whispers creates an environment where ordinary explanations, such as wind or temperature fluctuation, seem insufficient to account for the intensity of the experience. Paranormal investigators and enthusiasts have explored South Mountain Park extensively. Audio devices sometimes capture whispers, faint footsteps, or unusual sound anomalies, while cameras occasionally record dark shapes moving through trails or disappearing behind rocks. Researchers have also noted abrupt temperature fluctuations and electromagnetic irregularities in certain areas, suggesting environmental conditions that may correlate with reported sightings. Skeptics often point to optical illusions, shifting shadows, or the psychological effects of isolation in vast desert spaces as possible explanations. Yet the sheer consistency and frequency of the experiences cannot be ignored. Many hikers, despite the unsettling phenomena, continue to explore South Mountain Park, drawn by the challenge of its trails and the allure of its natural beauty. Those who venture into the park at dusk or evening often recount stories of shadowy figures, whispers in the wind, and cold spots that contrast sharply with the desert's expected warmth. Some describe feeling an unshakable presence, watching silently from behind rocks or along ridges, compelling them to leave the trail before reaching the next viewpoint. These accounts, though chilling, contribute to the mystique and enduring fascination of the park. Tonto Natural Bridge Park, located near Payson, Arizona, is renowned for its remarkable geological formation. A natural travertine bridge spanning more than 100 feet, towering above the lush canyon below. The park's dense foliage, rugged cliffs, and hidden caves create an atmosphere of serene beauty, drawing hikers, photographers, and nature enthusiasts to its trails and viewpoints. Yet amid this natural splendor, Tonto Natural Bridge Park has long been associated with mysterious and unsettling occurrences. Visitors report a pervasive feeling of being watched, whispers echoing from empty caves, and fleeting shadowy shapes near the bridge itself. Some claim that the area is haunted by the spirits of early miners, their restless energy tied to tragedy, misfortune, or unfinished business. The history of Tonto Natural Bridge contributes significantly to its eerie reputation. Long before the park became a popular tourist destination, the surrounding region was inhabited by Native American tribes, including the Yavapai and Apache. These communities left behind artifacts, ceremonial sites, and stories deeply connected to the land. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, miners arrived, drawn by copper, silver, and other resources. Life in the canyon was harsh. Accidents, disputes, and untimely deaths were frequent. Locals and historians have recounted tales of miners disappearing without explanation, of sudden rockfalls claiming lives, and of conflicts that ended in violence. Many believe that these events left residual energy in the park, creating the conditions for paranormal activity that persists today. Visitors to the park often sense an immediate change in atmosphere as they approach the bridge and its surrounding trails. The dense foliage casts deep shadows that move with the shifting sun, creating an environment where the ordinary perception of space is distorted. Hikers frequently describe the sensation of being followed, as though invisible eyes track their every step along the narrow trails. Footsteps echo where none should exist, and the rustling of leaves or the snapping of twigs is sometimes reported, even when the area appears completely empty. This feeling of presence, subtle yet insistent, can provoke both fascination and fear, urging some visitors to hasten their pace or turn back entirely. Shadowy shapes are a common occurrence at Tonto Natural Bridge. Visitors describe glimpsing forms that flit between trees, dart across the canyon floor, or linger near the edges of the bridge itself. These figures are often difficult to define, appearing as dark silhouettes that vanish when approached directly. Some hikers have reported seeing what appear to be human forms moving deliberately, pacing near old mine entrances, or peering from caves before disappearing into the shadows. These sightings are typically fleeting but leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the notion that the spirits of the past continue to inhabit the canyon. Auditory phenomena also contribute to the park's haunting character. Whispers are frequently reported, carried on the breeze or echoing from the cavernous spaces beneath the bridge. Some visitors describe hearing indistinct conversations, fragments of names, or low murmurs that seem to respond to their own words. Footsteps, clattering rocks, and the creaking of unseen doors or mining equipment are sometimes heard along empty trails, creating a disconcerting sense of accompaniment. These sounds often occur in places that are otherwise still, heightening the impression that unseen entities are present and aware of the living passing through their domain. The natural environment of Tonto Natural Bridge amplifies these experiences. Narrow trails, moss-covered rocks, and deep canyon shadows combine to create an otherworldly landscape, particularly in the late afternoon or near dusk. Light filtering through the dense foliage can produce shifting shapes and patterns that play tricks on the eye, while the sound of water flowing beneath the bridge carries and distorts noises, creating the sensation of voices emanating from nowhere. The interplay of visual and auditory cues makes it difficult to separate natural phenomena from the reported paranormal, leaving hikers in a state of heightened awareness and tension. Many reports center on the natural bridge itself, which towers above the canyon floor like a sentinel. Visitors have seen fleeting figures moving along the top of the bridge or standing near its edges, vanishing when approached. Some describe feeling a sudden chill in the air when standing near the bridge, as though the spirits of those who perished in the canyon are present. Others claim to have observed shadowy forms performing repetitive actions, as if reenacting moments from their past lives, lending an eerie sense of timelessness to the location. Local lore adds depth to the haunting narrative. Tales circulate of miners who met violent or tragic ends, now bound to the canyon in search of revenge or redemption. Some stories speak of figures carrying tools or lanterns, walking unseen among the trails, while others describe fleeting glimpses of individuals standing silently on the canyon rim, observing visitors with an intent that is impossible to interpret. These accounts, passed down through generations, contribute to the atmosphere of suspense and mystery that pervades the park. Paranormal enthusiasts and researchers have long been drawn to Tonto Natural Bridge Park. Audio recorders sometimes capture whispers, footsteps, or the sound of clanging tools in areas where no human presence is evident. Cameras occasionally document shadowy figures near the bridge or along narrow trails. Temperature anomalies and sudden gusts of wind have been recorded in the canyon, often coinciding with reported sightings or unusual sounds. While skeptics point to natural acoustics, shifting shadows, and optical illusions as explanations, the persistence and consistency of reports make the park a notable destination for those intrigued by the unexplained. Despite its haunted reputation, Tonto Natural Bridge Park continues to attract visitors who seek both adventure and the thrill of the unknown. Hikers explore the trails, marvel at the natural bridge, and photograph the canyon's unique formations, often recounting experiences of fleeting figures, whispers, or sudden chills. Some leave with stories that inspire awe and reflection, while others feel unease and a deep sense of the past pressing in on the present. Whether the experiences are the result of residual energy, human imagination, or something beyond ordinary understanding, they are vivid, memorable, and profoundly affecting. Lost Dutchman State Park, located in the shadow of the Superstition Mountains near Apache Junction, Arizona, is widely celebrated for its rugged desert landscapes, scenic hiking trails, and the legendary tales of hidden gold attributed to the Dutchman himself. For decades, adventurers and treasure hunters have flocked to the park, drawn by the promise of discovering the fabled mine. Yet beyond the allure of gold and adventure, The park has earned a reputation for more chilling experiences. Visitors frequently report ghostly sightings, shadowy figures among the rocky slopes, footsteps along empty trails, and flickering lantern lights that move without apparent source. Some campers, overwhelmed by the intensity of these encounters, have fled into the night, leaving behind tents and gear in a panic. The park's haunted reputation is closely intertwined with its history. The legend of the lost Dutchman mine dates back to the 19th century, when Jacob Waltz, a German immigrant known as the Dutchman, is said to have discovered a rich vein of gold deep within the Superstition Mountains. According to lore, Waltz took the location of his mine to his grave, leaving countless treasure hunters to wander the harsh desert slopes in search of fortune. Over the years, the search for gold has led to accidents, disappearances, and deaths, and many believe the restless spirits of those who perished remain tethered to the park, endlessly wandering in pursuit of the elusive treasure. Hikers entering the park often describe an immediate shift in atmosphere. The desert, normally warm and sun-drenched, can feel suddenly heavy, and shadows seem to lengthen unnaturally across the jagged rock formations. The isolation of the trails amplifies every sound. A bird's call becomes sharper, the rustling of cacti more pronounced, and footsteps echoing across stone can sound startlingly close. Many visitors report the sensation of being followed, hearing the crunch of gravel or the tap of rock underfoot when no one else is present. These experiences often intensify as hikers approach areas historically associated with the Dutchman legend, creating a palpable sense of tension that is difficult to ignore. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena at Lost Dutchman State Park. Witnesses describe forms resembling miners, often wearing hats or carrying tools, moving silently among the rocks or along the trails. Some appear to be searching, scanning the terrain as if retracing steps from a time long past. These apparitions often vanish when approached directly, leaving hikers questioning whether what they saw was real or a trick of light and shadow. Yet the consistency of these sightings across decades suggests a pattern, and many feel that these figures are echoes of those who lived and died in the pursuit of gold. The park's ghostly activity is not limited to visual phenomena. Auditory experiences are widely reported, including the sound of footsteps along deserted paths, the occasional clang of tools striking stone, and faint whispers that seem to drift through the air. Some campers have reported hearing indistinct voices, calling their names or murmuring warnings, often accompanied by sudden cold drafts that contrast sharply with the desert heat. These experiences create a sense that the spirits are not only present but aware of the living, observing intrusions into their long-abandoned domain. Lantern lights are another eerie feature reported by visitors. During late afternoon or at dusk, hikers have seen small flickering lights moving across rock faces or along ridgelines. These lights often appear at impossible angles or in areas inaccessible to humans, disappearing as quickly as they appear. Many speculate that these lights are manifestations of spectral miners, eternally retracing their steps or attempting to illuminate hidden paths. The phenomenon has inspired both fear and fascination, with some treasure hunters following the lights in hopes of discovering secrets long thought lost, only to find the lights vanish, leaving them alone among the desert rocks. The rugged terrain of Lost Dutchman State Park amplifies the sense of the supernatural. Steep cliffs, narrow canyons, and jagged boulders create pockets of shadow and sound that can distort perception. Hikers describe cliffs where shadows seem to move independently, canyons where echoes carry faint murmurs of conversation, and open desert flats where cold drafts appear without explanation. The combination of isolation, natural acoustics, and the harsh desert environment creates a setting where the ordinary and the extraordinary blend, leaving visitors uncertain of what is natural and what is otherworldly. Local lore reinforces the park's haunted reputation. Tales of prospectors lost to the desert, miners vanishing while searching for the Dutchman's gold, and unexplained accidents are common in the area. Some accounts speak of shadowy figures appearing at night near campsites, observing from a distance before vanishing. Others describe fleeting glimpses of miners climbing ridges or disappearing into canyons, as if retracing the paths of those who came before. These stories, passed down through generations, lend credibility to the experiences reported by modern visitors and enhance the park's mysterious atmosphere. Paranormal investigators have explored Lost Dutchman State Park extensively. Audio recorders have captured footsteps, whispers, and unidentifiable noises along empty trails. Cameras occasionally reveal shadowy forms near rocks or ridgelines, moving in ways inconsistent with natural patterns. Temperature fluctuations, sudden gusts of wind, and inexplicable lights have all been documented in conjunction with reported sightings. While skeptics argue that optical illusions, desert acoustics, and imagination can explain many of these phenomena, the persistence and consistency of reports across decades suggest that the park holds a deeper, more mysterious energy. Despite its reputation, Lost Dutchman State Park remains a popular destination. Visitors explore the trails, climb the rugged terrain, and marvel at the scenic beauty, often sharing stories of ghostly miners, flickering lanterns, and eerie whispers. Some leave feeling a thrill of adventure, while others recount chilling encounters that linger in memory long after departing. Whether the experiences are the result of lingering spirits, the power of legend, or the interplay of desert light and shadow, they are unforgettable and contribute to the park's unique character. Red Rock State Park, nestled in the vibrant landscapes of Sedona, Arizona, is renowned for its striking sandstone formations, winding trails, and sweeping vistas that capture the imagination of visitors from around the world. The park's towering cliffs and jagged ridges, painted in shades of red and orange by the desert sun, create a natural wonderland that draws hikers, photographers, and spiritual seekers alike. Yet, amid this breathtaking beauty lies an undercurrent of mystery and unease. For decades, visitors have reported encounters with shadowy figures moving among the cliffs, phantom voices carried on the wind, and fleeting images of forms climbing the rock faces at dusk. Some hikers claim that these shadows are more than tricks of light. They are echoes of tragedies from centuries past, replaying endlessly in the dramatic landscape. The haunting atmosphere of Red Rock State Park is intertwined with its long history. Long before the area became a destination for tourists, it was home to Native American tribes, including the Yavapai and Apache, who left behind artifacts, ceremonial sites, and petroglyphs etched into the rock. These ancient peoples viewed the cliffs and canyons as sacred spaces, steeped in spiritual energy. Later, settlers, ranchers, and miners traversed the area, often facing harsh conditions, disputes over land and resources, and sudden accidents in the treacherous terrain. Tales of lost travelers, violent confrontations, and tragic deaths became part of local lore, and some believed that the intensity of these events imprinted itself upon the land, creating residual energy that manifests as shadowy figures and unexplained sounds. Visitors to the park often describe a distinct shift in the atmosphere as they enter the trails. The desert, usually bright and warm, seems to take on a different character amid the towering cliffs. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the sandstone, and light refracting off the rock surfaces can create the illusion of movement where none exists. Many hikers report a sensation of being watched, a subtle yet persistent feeling that unseen eyes follow them along narrow trails or across open ledges. The sounds of the desert rustling leaves, distant birds, and shifting stones become amplified and altered, sometimes taking on the quality of whispers or murmurs. The combination of visual and auditory stimuli heightens the sense of unease, and for some, the experience is enough to turn back before reaching the higher ridges or cliffside viewpoints. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported phenomena at Red Rock State Park. Witnesses describe forms that appear human, sometimes climbing the cliffs, standing at the edge of a ridge, or pacing along narrow trails. These shapes often vanish when approached, yet they are unmistakable in peripheral vision, leaving hikers with a lingering impression that they have seen something real. Some figures are said to replay moments of struggle or despair, moving in ways that suggest effort, sorrow, or purpose. Many accounts indicate that these shadows appear most frequently during late afternoon or at dusk, when the interplay of fading sunlight and deepening shadows makes the landscape both enchanting and unnerving. Auditory experiences further contribute to the park's reputation. Visitors have reported hearing disembodied voices drifting on the wind, sometimes repeating fragments of words or names. Footsteps echo along empty trails, occasionally matching the pace of a hiker or appearing unexpectedly from side trails and alcoves. Some describe the sound of shifting rocks or even distant cries that seem to emanate from places no living person occupies. These auditory phenomena create a heightened awareness of presence, lending weight to the notion that the spirits of the past continue to inhabit the cliffs and canyons, unseen but active. The park's topography amplifies these experiences. Narrow canyons, hidden alcoves, and steep cliffs create spaces where echoes, shadows, and temperature shifts are intensified. Hikers often report sudden cold drafts in areas that should feel warm under the desert sun, and shadow patterns can make ordinary rock formations appear animate. Flickering light, combined with the natural acoustics of the cliffs, can create moments where voices and movements seem synchronized, giving the impression that unseen figures are replaying historical events or personal tragedies. These occurrences often leave visitors questioning whether they are witnessing natural phenomena, psychological effects, or genuine paranormal activity. Historical events associated with the region provide context for these haunting encounters. Legends speak of disputes over territory and resources, accidents among travelers navigating the cliffs, and unexplained disappearances of those who ventured too far into the rugged terrain. Some stories tell of shadowy forms appearing to warn passersby of danger, while others suggest restless spirits replaying the final moments of lives lost. These narratives, handed down through generations, contribute to the enduring mystique of Red Rock State Park, blending history with folklore and heightening the sense of the uncanny for modern visitors. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to Red Rock State Park, seeking to document the unexplained phenomena. Audio recordings have captured whispering voices and footsteps along deserted trails. Cameras occasionally reveal dark shapes among the cliffs or moving across the canyon floor, while temperature fluctuations and sudden gusts of wind have been measured in areas where sightings are most frequent. While skeptics argue that illusions of light, sound, and shadow can explain many experiences, the consistency of reports and the vivid detail provided by multiple witnesses suggest that something beyond the ordinary may be at work. Despite, or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, Red Rock State Park remains a popular destination. Visitors explore its trails, climb its cliffs, and photograph the vibrant landscapes, often recounting stories of fleeting figures, whispers, and sudden chills. Some leave inspired by the natural beauty, while others are left with an uneasy fascination, haunted by the shadows and echoes they encountered. Whether these experiences are manifestations of residual energy, the imagination heightened by isolation and dramatic terrain, or something more mysterious, they remain unforgettable. Slide Rock State Park, nestled in the stunning Red Rock Canyons of Sedona, Arizona, is celebrated for its natural waterslides carved into the Oak Creek sandstone, cool swimming spots, and scenic trails that wind along the creek. By day, the park is a lively destination, filled with families, hikers, and tourists enjoying the clear water and dramatic rock formations. Yet as the sun dips behind the towering cliffs and shadows lengthen across the canyon, a different atmosphere emerges, one steeped in mystery and unease. Visitors have reported ghostly figures slipping silently into the water, whispers calling their names, and dark shadows darting behind rock formations. Some hikers and campers say they felt unable to leave the park until they acknowledged an unseen presence that seemed to watch their every move. The haunting reputation of Slide Rock State Park is closely tied to the history of the region. Long before it became a protected park, the area was inhabited by Native American tribes, including the Yavapai and Apache, who viewed the canyon and its watercourses as sacred spaces. Later, settlers, farmers, and miners traversed the rugged terrain, often facing the dangers of steep cliffs, flash floods, and treacherous waters. Stories of accidents, disappearances, and sudden deaths became intertwined with the natural landscape, leaving behind tales of lingering spirits tied to the creek and the surrounding cliffs. Local legends suggest that these restless souls continue to inhabit the park, manifesting in ways that are both subtle and unmistakably eerie. Visitors often sense a shift in the atmosphere as evening approaches. The laughter and activity of the daytime crowd fade, replaced by an unsettling stillness that permeates the canyon. The water, usually inviting and clear, seems darker, reflecting the shadows of cliffs in ways that obscure shapes and movements. Hikers report the sensation of being watched, a prickling awareness that unseen eyes are following their every step along the trails or across slippery rocks near the creek. The wind often carries whispers that seem to originate from empty spaces, calling faintly to passersby, or murmuring unintelligible words that leave a lingering sense of unease. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena. Witnesses describe forms gliding along the rocks, slipping silently into the water, or darting behind boulders where no one should be. Some appear human, resembling figures from the past, perhaps early settlers, miners, or Native Americans, while others are harder to define, taking on ambiguous shapes that fade when approached. Many of these encounters occur near the creek itself, where the natural flow of water and light creates shifting reflections and shadows that add to the uncanny effect. Visitors often recall the figures pausing to observe before disappearing, leaving behind only a sense of lingering presence. Auditory experiences further intensify the park's haunted reputation. Whispers are frequently reported, seemingly carried by the breeze or reflected off canyon walls. Some visitors claim they hear their own names called softly, as if the unseen presence is aware of their presence and seeking acknowledgement. The sound of footsteps echoing along rocks or through shallow pools of water is often noted, even when the park is otherwise empty. At times, the rushing of the creek carries an eerie resonance, amplifying distant sounds or creating the impression of conversation in a language no one alive speaks. These auditory phenomena, paired with visual sightings, create a profound sense of the supernatural at Slide Rock after dark. The park's natural features amplify these experiences. The creek winds through narrow channels and pools, flanked by towering cliffs and jagged boulders that create deep shadows. The sandstone formations, shaped by centuries of water erosion, produce surfaces that glint in fading sunlight and cast strange reflections in the water. These elements, combined with the cooling evening air and the quiet that descends after sunset, make the park a setting where perception is heightened, and ordinary shapes and sounds can take on otherworldly qualities. Yet many encounters defy simple explanation, leaving hikers and campers certain they are witnessing something beyond natural phenomena. Many stories focus on the experience of acknowledgement. Visitors often describe feeling a compulsion to recognize the presence they sense in the park. Some report that only when they pause, speak, or otherwise acknowledge the unseen entity do the shadows retreat or the whispers fade. Others recount a lingering feeling of being followed until they turn back to confront the figure, whether visible or sensed. This aspect of the haunting gives the park a psychological weight, suggesting that the spirits here are not simply residual echoes of the past, but entities capable of interaction, however subtle, with the living. Local lore reinforces the park's mystique. Tales circulate of early settlers who met tragic ends near the creek, of miners swept away by flash floods, and of Native Americans whose spirits were said to guard sacred areas. Some accounts describe shadowy figures moving deliberately among the rocks, while others recount whispers that deliver warnings or draw visitors deeper into the canyon. Campers often speak of seeing fleeting lights that appear to float along the water or along cliff edges, moving independently of natural fireflies or lanterns. These stories have been passed down through generations, enhancing the sense of mystery that surrounds Slide Rock after dusk. Paranormal enthusiasts have explored the park extensively, often capturing audio anomalies, shadowy images, and sudden temperature drops. Some cameras record dark shapes moving along cliff edges or slipping into the water. while audio devices occasionally pick up whispers and footsteps in areas devoid of human activity. While skeptics argue that optical illusions, shifting shadows, and natural echoes explain many of these experiences, the consistency of reports and the detailed accounts provided by multiple visitors suggest that Slide Rock State Park holds an unusual energy that continues to intrigue and unsettle. Despite its haunted reputation, Slide Rock remains a popular destination, drawing visitors who wish to experience both its natural beauty and the thrill of the unexplained. Daytime activity masks the eerie undertones of the park, but those who remain into dusk often recount stories of ghostly figures, whispers, and shadows that linger longer than expected. Whether these experiences are manifestations of lingering spirits, the imagination heightened by isolation and dramatic landscapes, or something else entirely, they are vivid and unforgettable. Cathedral Rock, rising majestically in the heart of Sedona, Arizona, is one of the most iconic and photographed landmarks in the region. Its towering red sandstone spires, shaped by centuries of wind and water, dominate the landscape and draw thousands of hikers, photographers, and spiritual seekers each year. By day, the area is alive with sunlight glinting off the rock faces, the chatter of visitors, and the quiet hum of the desert around Oak Creek. Yet as the sun sets behind the surrounding cliffs, Cathedral Rock takes on a different character, one steeped in mystery and an eerie sense of the ancient. Hikers and visitors frequently report shadowy figures moving along the trails, strange lights flickering in the rock formations, and whispers in languages long forgotten. Some claim that the spirits are guardians, bound to the cliffs and canyons, warning intruders to turn back and respect the sacred land. The haunting atmosphere of Cathedral Rock is deeply tied to the area's history. Long before it became a popular destination for tourists, the region was inhabited by Native American tribes, including the Yavapai and Apache. These peoples regarded the rock formations as sacred sites of ceremony, meditation, and ritual. They left behind petroglyphs, artifacts, and oral traditions that speak of spirits residing within the cliffs, protecting the land and its secrets. Later settlers and explorers, drawn by the beauty of the landscape or the promise of natural resources, encountered the same cliffs that the native peoples revered. The rugged terrain, steep trails, and occasional accidents only added to the lore, with tales of vanished travelers and unexplained phenomena becoming part of the local consciousness. Many believe that the spirits tied to Cathedral Rock are remnants of these ancient presences, continuing to watch over the land centuries later. Visitors to Cathedral Rock often describe a tangible shift in the atmosphere as they ascend the trails. The warmth of the desert air seems to cool abruptly in shaded crevices, and the play of light across the sandstone creates shifting shadows that appear almost animate. Hikers report feeling an unseen presence walking alongside them or watching from above. Footsteps echo where none should be, or a branch snapping in the wind sounds unnervingly close, as if someone or something is following. The sense of being observed, subtle yet insistent, is a hallmark of many accounts, leaving even experienced hikers with an uneasy awareness that they are not alone on the trails. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported phenomena at Cathedral Rock. Witnesses describe human-like forms, gliding along cliff ledges, standing near trail edges, or pacing through alcoves and crevices. These figures often vanish when approached directly, as though they exist on a plane slightly removed from ordinary reality. Some hikers report seeing the silhouettes of warriors, shamans, or tribal figures performing ritual gestures, while others describe simpler human forms that simply watch or retreat into the rocks. These encounters are fleeting but leave an indelible impression, suggesting that the spirits of the past remain intimately connected to the present. In addition to visual phenomena, auditory experiences play a significant role in the park's haunted reputation. Whispers are commonly reported, carried by the wind through narrow canyons and crevices. Often the language is unintelligible, resembling fragments of words or chants long forgotten, sometimes described as sounding ancient or ceremonial. Footsteps echo on rocky trails, or the distant sound of stone shifting can be heard where no one is present. Some visitors report a sensation of voices responding to their own words, as if the cliffs themselves are aware of their intrusion. These auditory experiences reinforce the idea that Cathedral Rock is not merely a scenic landmark, but a place imbued with spiritual presence and protective energy. Strange lights are another feature that has captured the attention of visitors and paranormal enthusiasts alike. In the fading light of dusk, hikers have reported flickering orbs of illumination gliding along the cliffs or appearing in hidden alcoves. These lights often seem to move with intention, sometimes retreating as visitors approach or hovering in place as though marking a path or warning. While skeptics point to reflections, insects, or optical illusions, the consistency of reports across decades suggests a phenomenon that many interpret as spiritual in nature. Some believe these lights are manifestations of the ancient guardians themselves, guiding or warning those who tread upon the sacred rocks. The topography of Cathedral Rock amplifies the eerie experiences. Narrow trails, hidden alcoves, steep ledges, and towering cliffs create spaces where shadows lengthen and light bends unpredictably. Cool air currents rush through crevices, producing sudden chills in the otherwise warm desert environment. Sound travels differently across the rock faces, carrying footsteps, whispers, and distant echoes in ways that seem almost deliberate. These natural features, combined with the weight of history and legend, create an environment where ordinary perception can be unsettled, and where the supernatural feels tangibly close. Local lore adds depth to these reports. Tales speak of Native American spirits guarding sacred sites, of lost travelers glimpsed only fleetingly, and of entities tied to rituals or battles long past. Some hikers claim to have been stopped mid-trail by an inexplicable presence, sensing that they were being warned to leave or respect the land. Others recount moments of profound quiet, when the desert falls silent and the cliffs themselves seem to watch, holding the memory of centuries within their stone faces. Paranormal investigators have occasionally explored Cathedral Rock, reporting temperature anomalies, sudden gusts of wind, audio recordings of whispers, and photographs capturing shadowy forms. While many incidents can be attributed to natural phenomena or the mind's response to isolation and dramatic landscapes, the repetition of similar accounts across generations and among independent visitors suggests that Cathedral Rock holds a powerful, enigmatic energy. Despite its haunted reputation, Cathedral Rock remains a popular destination for hikers and spiritual seekers alike. Daylight brings warmth, breathtaking views, and the opportunity to traverse the iconic trails, but evening casts a different light, inviting contemplation, caution, and sometimes fear. Visitors often recount stories of shadowy figures, mysterious lights, and whispering voices, leaving them with memories that blend awe of the natural beauty with a profound sense of the mysterious. Watson Lake Park, nestled on the outskirts of Prescott, Arizona, is a striking natural landscape known for its serene waters, rugged granite dells, and scenic trails that wind around the lake's edge. By day, visitors enjoy kayaking, fishing, hiking, and photographing the unique rock formations that rise dramatically from the shoreline. The granite boulders, worn smooth by centuries of erosion, form natural alcoves, narrow passageways, and towering pillars that frame the lake in a breathtaking display of stone and water. Yet as the sun begins to set, the park transforms into a place of mystery, where shadows stretch long across the water, whispers drift along empty trails, and figures seem to linger just out of reach. Many visitors report experiences that suggest Watson Lake is haunted, with spirits from the past, particularly the Yavapai people, continuing to inhabit the land, carrying with them echoes of ancient struggles and long-forgotten tales. The history of Watson Lake and its surrounding areas is rich and complex. Long before Prescott was established, the Yavapai people called this region home. They hunted, gathered, and lived among the granite formations and waterways, leaving behind artifacts, petroglyphs, and oral traditions that speak of both daily life and spiritual practices. The lake and the surrounding dells were considered sacred, places where the natural world and the spiritual realm intersected. With the arrival of settlers, miners, and ranchers in the 19th century. The Yavapai were displaced, often violently, and their lives irrevocably altered. These historical traumas, combined with the enduring presence of the land itself, have led many to believe that the spirits of the Yavapai still linger at Watson Lake, watching over the granite dells and the water they once revered. Visitors to the park often report a noticeable change in atmosphere as dusk falls. The warm daylight gives way to shadows that seem to move independently across the granite formations, stretching unnaturally and shifting in ways that defy explanation. The lake's surface, reflecting the last rays of sunlight, sometimes displays shapes and patterns that do not match the natural surroundings, prompting observers to question what they are seeing. These reflections can resemble human figures, fleeting silhouettes, or ghostly forms that appear to move across the water's surface before vanishing. The sense of being observed is common, leaving hikers and photographers with a feeling that the park is alive in a way that extends beyond its physical beauty. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported phenomena at Watson Lake. Visitors describe human-like forms slipping silently between the granite boulders, pausing at trail intersections, or standing on ledges overlooking the water. Some figures appear to resemble ancient warriors or villagers, their outlines sharp in the dimming light, while others are more ambiguous, simply evoking the sensation of presence. These apparitions often disappear when approached, leaving no trace but a lingering impression of something unseen, yet undeniably present. Many believe these figures are spirits of the Yavapai, bound to the land by memory, history, and a desire to protect their sacred spaces. Auditory experiences are another hallmark of the park's haunting. Visitors frequently report hearing whispers along the trails, carried on the wind through narrow channels between granite dells. Sometimes the words are indistinct, almost as if the voices are speaking in languages long forgotten. Footsteps echo where no one else is present, and the sound of shifting stones or distant splashes in the lake can feel purposeful, as if unseen entities are moving with intention. Some hikers describe hearing their own names called softly, prompting them to turn and search for the source, only to find the trails empty. These sounds, often subtle yet persistent, reinforce the impression that Watson Lake is a place where the living and the spirits of the past intersect. Strange reflections and lights on the lake add another layer to the park's eerie reputation. As dusk deepens, the water sometimes seems to shimmer with shapes that do not correspond to nearby rocks or vegetation. Some visitors report seeing figures kneeling by the shoreline, walking across the water's surface, or appearing briefly on granite ledges before vanishing. These visual anomalies often coincide with shadows moving among the boulders, creating a sense of synchronization between the lake and the land. While some argue that the reflections are caused by shifting light, wind patterns, or optical illusions, the repeated accounts over decades suggest that many encounters are experienced as more than just visual trickery. The natural layout of Watson Lake amplifies the haunting experience. Narrow pathways, hidden alcoves, and the towering granite formations create a maze of shadows and echoing sound. Cool air currents funnel through the dells in ways that produce sudden chills in the evening, even as the sun dips below the horizon. These elements, combined with the lake's reflective surface, create conditions where ordinary perception can be challenged, making fleeting figures and sounds feel tangible. Hikers often remark that the park feels different at dusk, as if time itself slows and the boundary between the present and the past blurs among the rocks and water. Local lore contributes to the park's mystique. Stories speak of Yavapai ancestors guarding sacred spaces, of spirits of hunters or villagers who met tragic ends, and of figures who appear to guide or warn those who wander too close to dangerous cliffs or deep water. Some accounts describe visitors being compelled to pause, sensing that acknowledgement of the presence is necessary before moving on. Others recount a chilling feeling of eyes upon them, a silent warning that the land holds memories that demand respect. These narratives, passed down and retold, enrich the sense of mystery and spiritual depth that surrounds the lake. Paranormal investigators have explored Watson Lake extensively, capturing audio anomalies, unexplained footsteps, and photographic evidence of shadowy forms. While skeptics often cite natural phenomena, such as light, wind, and reflections, as explanations, the consistency and detail of the sightings across generations suggests that the park holds a unique and enduring energy. Temperature fluctuations, sudden gusts, and subtle changes in perception all contribute to an environment that can feel both beautiful and unsettling. Despite its haunted reputation, Watson Lake Park remains a beloved destination. Visitors hike the trails, paddle the lake, and photograph the dramatic granite formations, often recounting tales of fleeting figures, whispers, and strange reflections. Some leave with awe at the natural beauty, others with a sense of wonder, tinged with unease. The park offers an experience where history, legend, and the unexplained converge, creating a landscape where every shadow, whisper, and reflection carries the weight of centuries past. Thumb Butte Park, located just west of Prescott, Arizona, is a striking natural area known for its prominent granite peak, winding trails, and panoramic views of the surrounding desert landscape. By day, hikers traverse its well-maintained paths, enjoying the warm sun, the scent of juniper and pine, and the impressive sight of Thumb Butte rising sharply against the sky. Yet as the day wanes and shadows stretch across the rock-strewn trails, the park takes on a different, more unsettling character. Many visitors have reported feeling watched as they navigate the paths, seeing ghostly figures appear and vanish, hearing whispers carried by the wind, and sensing cold drafts along trails that remain warm under the fading sunlight. Some claim that these apparitions are spirits of lost hikers, eternally retracing their steps, bound to the butte by unfinished journeys or tragic accidents. The haunting reputation of Thumb Butte is intertwined with its long and varied history. Long before Prescott was founded, the area was home to the Yavapai people, who considered the hills, valleys, and peaks sacred. They left behind artifacts and oral traditions, speaking of spirits tied to the land guardians who watched over travelers and the natural world alike. Later settlers and pioneers used the butte as a landmark for navigation, but many encountered the rugged terrain with little preparation, sometimes becoming lost in its twisting trails and rocky outcrops. Over the years, a series of disappearances and accidents became part of local lore, and it is believed that the spirits of those who never found their way home still wander the paths, manifesting in subtle but unmistakable ways. Visitors often describe a profound change in atmosphere as they hike later in the day. The sun descending behind the surrounding hills casts long shadows across the trails and granite formations, creating an interplay of light and darkness that seems to shift with intent. Hikers report an inexplicable sense of being observed, as though unseen eyes follow them along the switchbacks and narrow pathways. Some notice movement from the corner of their eye, a shadow flitting behind a boulder, a figure standing at the edge of a trail, or a fleeting shape disappearing when approached. The sensation of presence is acute, leaving even experienced hikers with a deep, unsettling awareness that Thumb Butte is more than just a natural landmark. Ghostly figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena. Visitors have described pale, indistinct forms standing along ridges, gliding through shaded groves of juniper and pine, or appearing momentarily on rocky ledges. Some figures resemble hikers from the past, their outlines faint but humanoid, while others are harder to define, resembling fleeting shadows that seem to move independently of natural light. Often, these apparitions vanish when confronted directly, leaving behind only the lingering impression of an entity that exists just beyond the physical realm. Many hikers interpret these manifestations as the spirits of lost travelers, replaying their journeys endlessly, bound by circumstance or fate to the Butte's rugged terrain. Auditory phenomena enhance the park's haunted character. Whispering voices are frequently reported, carried along trails by evening breezes, sometimes sounding like fragments of conversation or distant calls. Hikers have reported hearing footsteps echoing along empty paths, the rustle of clothing or brush as if someone is passing close behind, and even the faint clatter of objects moving among the rocks. Some visitors recount hearing their names called softly, compelling them to pause and search the area. only to find no one in sight. These sounds, subtle but persistent, contribute to the impression that Thumb Butte is alive with unseen presences, interacting with the living in ways that defy simple explanation. Cold drafts along otherwise warm trails are another feature that many associate with haunting. As the sun sets, pockets of chill air often sweep across sections of the trail, sometimes localized to specific areas where no natural explanation seems sufficient. Hikers describe sudden goosebumps or shivers, often coinciding with visual or auditory phenomena. These cold spots are particularly unsettling because they contrast sharply with the otherwise mild desert temperatures, reinforcing the sense that something otherworldly is present. Many believe these sensations are tied to the lingering spirits of those who became lost or perished on the butte, their energy somehow imprinted on the terrain. The topography of Thumb Butte amplifies these experiences. Its granite outcrops, narrow ridges, and hidden alcoves create spaces where shadows linger and sound carries in unexpected ways. The winding trails, some of which have been carved along steep slopes or between boulders, provide numerous points where hikers may encounter the inexplicable. Light refracting off stone, wind rushing through gaps, and the natural echoing of footsteps all contribute to an environment where ordinary perception can be challenged, making ghostly appearances and whispers feel tangible. Local lore reinforces the park's haunted reputation. Stories abound of hikers who vanished decades ago, only to reappear in fleeting visions along the trails. Some accounts describe figures that seem to retrace familiar routes, moving deliberately along the paths as though stuck in a loop. Other tales speak of whispers delivering warnings, urging hikers to turn back before nightfall or to avoid certain areas. These stories, passed down and retold by locals and visitors alike, add a layer of narrative to the natural beauty of the park, blending history, tragedy, and the unexplained into a compelling and eerie experience. Paranormal enthusiasts have investigated Thumb Butte extensively. Some have captured audio anomalies, unexplained footsteps, or images of faint, shadowy forms on ridges and among the trees, while skeptics argue that optical illusions, wind patterns, and the mind's tendency to anticipate movement can explain many experiences. The repeated reports across generations suggest that something more mysterious may linger on the trails. Temperature fluctuations, fleeting figures, and whispers create a consistent pattern of encounters that continue to intrigue and unsettle visitors. Despite its haunted reputation, Thumb Butte Park remains a popular destination. Daytime hikes provide scenic views and an opportunity to experience the park's natural beauty, while dusk and evening hours offer encounters that are subtle, mysterious, and sometimes chilling. Visitors often leave with stories of ghostly figures, cold drafts, and whispers carried by the wind, blending awe of the landscape with the thrill of the unknown. Reardon Mansion State Historic Park, located in the heart of Flagstaff, Arizona, is a striking example of early 20th century American architecture. Built by the affluent Reardon family in 1904, the mansion's stone and wood structure sits nestled among ponderosa pines, offering a scenic yet slightly isolated setting that immediately evokes both awe and a subtle sense of unease. By day, visitors marvel at the craftsmanship of the lodge-style mansion, the intricate woodwork, and the historic furnishings that tell the story of the Reardon family's life. Yet, as dusk approaches, the park and mansion take on a different character, one that visitors describe as haunted by the former residents. Lingering spirits and echoes of domestic life long past. Shadowy figures are often glimpsed in the wooded areas surrounding the mansion. Whispers drift from empty rooms, and footsteps echo along deserted trails, suggesting that the history of the Reardon family is not confined to photographs and artifacts, but continues to play out in spectral form. The mansion itself, with its expansive hallways, high ceilings, and multiple rooms, is an ideal setting for reported paranormal activity. Visitors often report feeling a sudden chill when entering certain areas, as if the atmosphere itself carries the weight of memory. Shadows move across walls or doorways where no one is present, fleeting shapes that vanish when approached. Some describe seeing figures resembling the Reardon family members, dressed in early 20th century attire, going about daily tasks or pausing near windows and hallways. These visual phenomena are subtle but persistent, creating an uncanny sense that the mansion is inhabited by more than just its historical legacy. Footsteps are among the most common and unsettling reports at Reardon Mansion, along the wooden floors, which creak under the weight of visitors. Some claim to hear extra steps echoing in rhythm with their own, or distant footsteps moving through the halls when no one else is present. The sound is sometimes accompanied by other domestic noises, the soft closing of doors, the faint clink of dishes, or the rustle of fabric. These auditory experiences often occur in the mansion's quieter moments, particularly in the late afternoon and early evening. When natural light wanes and the shadows deepen, hikers on the surrounding trails have also reported hearing footsteps along paths that should be empty, as if the past occupants are moving just out of view among the pines and rocky outcrops. Whispers add another layer of eerie presence to the mansion and park. Visitors describe faint voices, sometimes indistinct murmurs, sometimes fragments of conversation or laughter, emanating from rooms where no one is present. These whispers are often fleeting, disappearing when one turns to investigate, leaving only the impression of a presence that exists just beyond perception. Some interpret the voices as echoes of domestic life, though, hushed tones of family members conversing, servants attending to chores, or children playing quietly. Others feel the whispers are warnings or invitations, gently urging visitors to recognize the history embedded in the walls and surrounding forests. Visual apparitions complement these auditory experiences. Shadowy figures are frequently reported in the wooded areas surrounding the mansion, especially at dusk, when long shadows stretch across the trails. Visitors recount seeing indistinct forms standing among the pines, walking along paths, or peering from behind rocks and tree trunks. These figures often vanish when approached, leaving only a lingering impression of movement and presence. Some hikers claim to see the forms reenacting scenes of everyday life, from tending to chores to walking arm in arm, as if time itself continues to loop within the mansion's sphere of influence. These sightings create a profound sense of history interwoven with the living landscape, making the mansion and park feel like a place where past and present overlap. The natural environment around Reardon Mansion amplifies these phenomena. Tall, ponderosa pinnacles, rocky outcrops, and shaded pathways create spaces where shadows and light behave unpredictably. The creaking of trees, rustling of leaves, and whispering wind carry sound in ways that can make ordinary noises feel uncanny. The combination of the forested environment with the historic architecture of the mansion results in an atmosphere where the imagination is heightened, and subtle occurrences are often perceived as supernatural. Even visitors who do not actively seek out paranormal experiences frequently report a heightened sense of awareness, a feeling that unseen eyes watch them as they navigate trails and hallways. Local lore surrounding Reardon Mansion contributes to its reputation as a haunted location. Stories tell of family members who were deeply attached to the mansion, unwilling to leave even in death, and of servants and caretakers whose presence may linger in service to the household. Some accounts describe moments when visitors observe domestic scenes seemingly frozen in time chairs arranged as if recently used, doors ajar, or the faint scent of food and wood smoke lingering in the air. Others have reported hearing laughter or conversation from empty rooms, as if the mansion itself remembers and replays moments from its past. Paranormal investigators have explored the mansion and surrounding park, noting temperature anomalies, sudden gusts of cold air in isolated areas, and audio recordings capturing unexplained voices and footsteps. While skeptics often attribute these experiences to acoustics, natural environmental factors, or the power of suggestion, the consistency of reports over time suggests that Reardon Mansion holds an enduring energy that resonates with visitors. The mansion's history, the surrounding forest, and the stories of those who lived and worked there combine to create an environment where supernatural encounters are both plausible and compelling. Despite its haunted reputation, Reardon Mansion State Historic Park remains a beloved destination for tourists, hikers, and history enthusiasts. Visitors explore the mansion by day, taking in the rich architecture and artifacts, and traverse the surrounding trails, enjoying the scenic beauty of Prescott's forested landscape. By evening, the park transforms into a place of quiet mystery, where shadows lengthen, whispers drift through the pines, and footsteps echo in empty halls. Many leave with stories of fleeting figures, ghostly sounds, and the subtle sensation of being observed, blending the awe of history with the thrill of the unexplained. Buffalo Park, located on the outskirts of Flagstaff, Arizona, is a sprawling natural area known for its wide-open meadows, winding trails, and panoramic views of the surrounding forests and mountains. During the day, visitors come to hike, jog, or simply enjoy the expansive scenery and fresh air. The park is named for the historic presence of bison in the area, though today the landscape is populated by deer, coyotes, and a variety of birds. Locals and visitors alike report strange occurrences that suggest the park is haunted by spirits from both Native American heritage and the earliest settlers of the region. Ghostly figures appear along the trails, whispers drift through the wind, and mysterious lights flicker without explanation, creating a sense that the park is a place where the past refuses to remain buried. The history of Buffalo Park contributes heavily to its eerie reputation. The area around Flagstaff was historically inhabited by Native American tribes, including the Navajo Hopi and other peoples who revered the land as sacred. It is said that the park sits on grounds that were once used for ceremonial purposes, hunting, and seasonal settlements. Later, settlers arrived in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, drawn by opportunities in logging, ranching, and trade. These early inhabitants left their mark on the land, sometimes through tragedy, displacement, or hardship, adding layers of history and emotion that linger to this day. Some believe that the spirits of both Native Americans and settlers continue to inhabit the trails and meadows, visible or audible under the right conditions. Visitors often report a subtle but pervasive feeling of being watched as they traverse the trails, particularly as dusk falls. Hikers describe the sensation that unseen eyes track their movements, prompting a heightened awareness of every sound and shadow. Shadowy figures are frequently glimpsed, moving through the trees or across open fields, vanishing when approached, leaving only the lingering impression of a presence that is both familiar and otherworldly. These figures are sometimes described as indistinct humanoid shapes, while at other times they appear more like fleeting images of people from the past, hunters, families, or early settlers walking paths they once knew intimately. Auditory phenomena add another layer to Buffalo Park's haunted atmosphere. Visitors report hearing faint whispers carried on the wind, seeming to emanate from areas where no one is present. Some describe murmured phrases in languages long forgotten or names spoken softly, prompting them to look around in search of the source. Footsteps echo along the trails when the park is otherwise empty, and the rustling of leaves or the snap of a twig can take on an unnatural cadence, as if someone or something is moving deliberately through the woods. Hikers have recounted moments where these sounds appear to mimic their own pace or rhythm, reinforcing the feeling of being followed by invisible companions. Mysterious lights are another phenomenon frequently reported in Buffalo Park. As dusk settles, small points of light have been seen flickering among trees or rocks, often appearing and disappearing suddenly. Some visitors interpret these as lanterns carried by spirits of early settlers, while others see them as manifestations of the energy of Native American ceremonies that once took place on the land. These lights do not correspond to natural reflections, passing vehicles, or known sources, and their sudden appearances can startle hikers and joggers, prompting them to leave the area in haste. In many cases, the lights seem to move in ways that suggest intention, following trails or hovering near boulders before vanishing. The natural layout of the park amplifies these experiences. Open meadows transition into wooded groves, granite outcrops, and narrow paths, creating pockets of shadow and areas where sound carries unpredictably. The interplay of wind through the trees, light fading over the horizon, and long shadows across the trails can create illusions. but many visitors insist that what they see and hear exceeds ordinary optical or auditory tricks. The environment of Buffalo Park, with its expansive views and secluded corners, allows both imagination and genuine encounters to flourish, providing a backdrop where the past and present seem to converge. Local stories and legends further reinforce the sense of haunting. Some accounts speak of figures disappearing behind trees or rocks only to reappear farther along the trail, as if retracing steps in a loop. Others describe a sudden chill in the air, or a feeling of being gently guided or warned away from certain areas. Hikers and visitors share stories of fleeting glimpses of people in period clothing, shadows moving against the wind, and whispers that seem to answer questions unasked. These tales pass from visitor to visitor and often retold with growing detail, have solidified Buffalo Park's reputation as a site where the veil between the living and the dead feels thin. Paranormal enthusiasts have investigated the park, capturing audio anomalies, unexplained footsteps, and occasional photographic evidence of shadowy figures, while skeptics cite natural phenomena as shifting wind, temperature changes, or optical illusions as explanations. The consistency of reports across generations suggests that Buffalo Park holds a lingering energy tied to its complex history. The spirits that some visitors encounter appear connected not only to specific events, but also to the land itself. Moving along trails, resting near trees, or appearing in open meadows in ways that mimic life once lived. Despite its haunted reputation, Buffalo Park remains a popular destination. Hikers, joggers, photographers, and families continue to explore its trails during daylight, appreciating its natural beauty and serenity. Yet, as dusk approaches, those who linger often find themselves encountering something more mysterious: shadows flitting among the trees, whispers on the wind, and lights that defy explanation. Visitors leave with stories that blend the awe of nature with the intrigue of the unexplained, recounting fleeting shapes, voices, and movements that suggest the spirits of the past are far from gone. Fort Verde State Historic Park, located in Camp Verde, Arizona, stands as a preserved relic of the American frontier, a site that once served as a key military post during the late 19th century. The fort, with its stone and wood structures, barracks, and parade grounds, tells the story of soldiers who were stationed here to maintain peace and protect settlers during a turbulent period in Arizona's history. By day, visitors explore the well-maintained buildings and expansive grounds, admiring the architecture and imagining life during the fort's operational years. However, as the sun dips below the horizon, Fort Verde takes on a markedly different character, one that many describe as haunted. Shadowy figures in period military uniforms are reported along the trails and in the barracks. Whispers echo through empty rooms, and sudden cold drafts appear where no wind seems to blow. Many visitors claim that they felt followed by unseen presences during evening walks, suggesting that the spirits of soldiers still linger, guarding the fort in ways that transcend time. The history of Fort Verde is central to understanding its haunted reputation. Established in the 1870s during conflicts between the U.S. Army and local Native American tribes, the fort was a hub of military activity in the region. Soldiers stationed there lived under strict routines, enduring harsh conditions and constant vigilance. Many of these men formed close bonds, shared moments of camaraderie, and faced dangers that sometimes resulted in injury or death. Over the decades, stories of hardships, untimely deaths, and the dedication of soldiers became intertwined with the fort's legacy. Visitors often report that the spirits they encounter seem linked to these historical figures, reenacting aspects of their lives in spectral form along the trails, in the barracks, and near the parade grounds. Visual sightings are among the most commonly reported phenomena. Shadowy figures are frequently seen moving along the trails that wind through the park, sometimes disappearing when approached or observed directly. Many describe apparitions wearing uniforms of the era, complete with hats, belts, and rifles, giving the impression that the soldiers of Fort Verde continue their patrols even after more than a century. Other visitors have glimpsed fleeting figures inside the barracks, standing near beds or doorways, appearing and vanishing as if caught between this world and the next. These sightings often provoke both awe and unease, as the apparitions seem to inhabit the fort in a way that mirrors their daily lives when the site was active. Auditory experiences contribute further to the sense of haunting. Visitors report hearing footsteps echoing along empty hallways, the faint clatter of boots on wooden floors, and the soft creak of doors opening and closing without human presence. Some have heard murmured conversations or commands, reminiscent of soldiers coordinating duties or sharing words of camaraderie. These sounds are often subtle, heard more clearly during the quiet hours of early evening when the natural bustle of the park has diminished. Hikers and evening visitors sometimes describe hearing footsteps along the exterior trails, as if someone is following them from a distance, only to find no one present when they turn to look. Cold drafts are another frequently reported phenomenon. Visitors note sudden chills that appear along otherwise warm trails or within rooms that should be at ambient temperature. These inexplicable drops in temperature often coincide with visual or auditory encounters, such as seeing a shadowy figure or hearing footsteps. Many interpret these cold spots as the lingering energy of soldiers, echoing the hardships and vigilance of their lives. The sensation of being watched or followed often accompanies these experiences, creating an immersive and sometimes unsettling encounter with the fort's past. The layout and environment of Fort Verde enhance these spectral experiences. The combination of stone and wood architecture, narrow corridors, and elevated walkways creates spaces where shadows and sound behave unpredictably. Trails that wind through the surrounding park offer points of observation where fleeting movements can be mistaken for natural occurrences. Yet many visitors insist that the consistency and timing of these events defies simple explanation. Even in daylight, the fort's preserved structures create an atmosphere where the imagination is heightened. But as evening falls, the environment transforms into one where history feels alive and the presence of the past becomes tangible. Local lore and historical accounts reinforce the fort's haunted reputation. Stories passed down from previous visitors and park staff describe soldiers who linger long after their mortal lives ended, performing duties they were once responsible for or watching over the fort from the shadows. Some accounts speak of visitors being gently guided away from the trails or warned by whispers to avoid certain areas after dark. Others recount more unsettling encounters, such as feeling an invisible hand graze a shoulder, or seeing a shadow silently march alongside them, never breaking formation. These stories, repeated over decades, have become part of Fort Verde's identity, blending the tangible history of the site with the intangible presence of spirits. Paranormal investigations have added to the fort's mystique. Audio recordings have captured unexplained footsteps, low murmurs, and occasional knocks or thuds within the barracks. Temperature anomalies appear in isolated spots, while some photographs show fleeting, shadowy forms or light anomalies that cannot be attributed to natural sources. Skeptics often suggest that these experiences are the result of acoustics, drafts, or the power of suggestion. But the sheer volume and consistency of reports over many years lend weight to the belief that Fort Verde harbors genuine paranormal activity. Despite its reputation, Fort Verde State Historic Park remains a popular destination for visitors of all kinds. Tourists explore the historic buildings, learn about the lives of soldiers stationed there, and enjoy the natural beauty of the surrounding Arizona landscape. Evening walks, however, provide a different experience, one where the air seems heavier, shadows stretch longer, and the faint echoes of the past become more perceptible. Many visitors leave the fort with stories of fleeting figures, whispering voices, and the chilling sensation of being followed, blending the intrigue of history with the thrill of the unknown. Dead Horse Ranch State Park, nestled in the Verde Valley near Cottonwood, Arizona, is celebrated for its serene ponds, shaded trails, and sprawling stables. By day, visitors enjoy horseback riding, hiking, and observing the abundant wildlife. The park's natural beauty, with its oak trees, meandering creeks, and calm waters, offers a tranquil escape from the surrounding desert and cityscape. Yet, beneath this idyllic exterior, Dead Horse Ranch carries a reputation for unexplained occurrences, drawing those intrigued by the supernatural. Guests often report ghostly figures near the ponds and stables, shadows moving independently of the trees, and whispers that drift across the water as dusk falls, suggesting that the park may be haunted by spirits whose presence is sensed by both humans and animals. The stables at Dead Horse Ranch are frequently cited in paranormal accounts. Visitors describe horses reacting to unseen presences, becoming restless, snorting, or refusing to enter certain stalls at twilight. Some riders have recounted feeling sudden chills while leading horses along the paths, hearing whispers or murmurs that seem to echo from empty corners of the barn. Shadowy shapes are sometimes seen moving along the stable walls or across the paddocks, vanishing when approached. The combination of the animal's sensitivity and the visual and auditory phenomena reported by humans has reinforced the idea that the ranch is not only a place of natural beauty, but also one where the unseen is present and palpable. The ponds scattered throughout the park also play a central role in these stories. Visitors frequently report seeing shadowy figures hovering near the water's edge, reflecting indistinct forms that vanish upon closer inspection. Some describe seeing shapes that resemble early ranch workers or passers-by from decades past, moving silently along the banks or disappearing into the surrounding vegetation. Whispers often accompany these sightings, carried by the breeze across the water, suggesting conversations or warnings from spirits lingering in the area. The effect is heightened during dusk, when the fading light and gentle ripples across the water create an atmosphere both peaceful and unsettling. Trails winding through the park provide another setting for supernatural experiences. Hikers recount moments when shadows seem to move independently of the surrounding trees, darting across paths or lingering near bends in ways that defy natural explanation. Some have felt the presence of being watched, as if unseen eyes follow their progress along the trail. Others report hearing footsteps echoing behind them when no one is there, or seeing fleeting glimpses of figures dressed in clothing styles from decades past, walking as though unaware of the modern world. These encounters often leave visitors with a sense of history pressing against the present, a reminder that the land has been inhabited and witnessed countless human and animal lives over the years. Auditory experiences at Dead Horse Ranch are particularly compelling. Whispers, laughter, or faint murmurs seem to drift across the ponds and through the trees, appearing to come from no discernible source. Sometimes these sounds resemble distant conversations. Other times they take on a more ghostly tone, almost as if the park itself remembers events long past. Some visitors have reported hearing the soft clopping of hooves along empty paths, or the creak of stable doors opening and closing by themselves. These sounds often occur in the late evening, when the park is quiet and shadows stretch long, creating a heightened sense of otherworldly presence. The history of the area contributes to its reputation for haunting. Dead Horse Ranch, like much of the Verde Valley, has a layered history involving early settlers, ranchers, and Native American tribes. Stories of hardships, accidents, and lives lost on the land have been passed down over generations. Locals say that these events may have left an imprint on the environment, a kind of residual energy that manifests as shadows, whispers, and fleeting apparitions. The presence of animals, particularly horses, which are sensitive to energy and emotion, seems to amplify these encounters. Riders often report that their mounts react to unseen stimuli before the visitors themselves notice anything unusual, alerting them to phenomena that might otherwise go unnoticed. Visitors' experiences often include an interplay between visual and auditory phenomena. Shadows are glimpsed at the edge of ponds or along trails, accompanied by whispers that seem to emanate from the direction of the movement. Figures are sometimes described as translucent, appearing as outlines rather than solid forms, while at other times they seem more corporeal, momentarily tangible, before fading into the surrounding scenery. Some guests have described seeing horses standing motionless near the ponds, ears pricked and bodies tense, as if aware of something invisible. When riders approach, the animals often return to normal, suggesting that the spirits or energies are aware of the living and retreat when confronted. The park's natural setting enhances the eerie experience. Tall trees, winding trails, and reflections on the water create spaces where light and shadow play tricks on the eye. Ripples on the ponds can distort shapes, and the wind through the trees can carry sounds in unexpected directions. While many of the reported occurrences could be attributed to natural factors, the consistency of sightings, sounds, and animal behavior over time suggests that Dead Horse Ranch has a persistent presence beyond mere coincidence. Paranormal investigators have explored the ranch and reported unexplained phenomena, including EVPs of whispers, temperature fluctuations near the ponds and stables, and occasional photographic anomalies. While skeptics argue that environmental factors and the power of suggestion may explain some experiences, the cumulative effect of repeated reports from visitors and staff contributes to the park's reputation as a haunted location. Despite its haunted reputation, Dead Horse Ranch State Park continues to attract visitors for its beauty and recreation. Hikers, horseback riders, and photographers enjoy the scenic vistas and tranquil settings by day, while those staying into the evening may find themselves witnessing something far stranger. Shadowy figures, whispers, and unusual animal behavior suggests that the spirits of the past linger here, silently moving among the trees, water, and stables. For those who venture at dusk, the park offers not just a connection to nature, but an encounter with the lingering presence of history, a place where human and animal lives intersect with the unseen, leaving an indelible impression of mystery and quiet haunting. Lyman Lake State Park, located near St. David, Arizona, is a serene and scenic destination, known for its sparkling waters, lush vegetation, and opportunities for boating, fishing, and camping. By day, the park draws visitors to its calm shores, where families picnic, anglers cast lines into the lake, and hikers explore the trails winding through surrounding desert landscapes. Yet beneath its peaceful surface, Lyman Lake holds a darker reputation, one steeped in tragedy and the unexplained. For decades, travelers who perished in the waters are said to linger, their spirits tied to the lake and the cabins along its edge. Visitors frequently report ghostly figures along the shore, flickering lights in cabins that should be empty, and whispers carried across the water. Some even claim to have felt unseen hands brushing their shoulders, sending chills down their spines and prompting hasty retreats from the area. The lake itself is central to these haunting accounts. Travelers who drowned in past decades are said to have left an imprint on the waters, their spirits remaining restless. Many visitors describe seeing figures walking along the shoreline at dusk, only for the images to vanish when approached. Some report seeing silhouettes reflected in the water that do not match any living person nearby. Others have noticed sudden movements beneath the surface, as if unseen swimmers glide just below, leaving only subtle ripples in their wake. These occurrences often coincide with the fading light of evening, when the water mirrors the sky and shadows stretch across the beach, creating an atmosphere of both beauty and unease. The cabins around Lyman Lake are another focal point for paranormal activity. Visitors staying overnight have reported flickering lights, doors opening and closing on their own, and a faint sensation of someone entering the room when no one is present. Some describe seeing shadowy figures pass through the windows or across porches, while others have heard footsteps echoing inside cabins that are supposed to be empty. These experiences often leave guests feeling vulnerable, as if the spirits of past travelers are aware of their presence and, at times, are attempting to communicate. Whispers are among the most commonly reported phenomena. Visitors recount hearing faint voices calling their names from across the water or the surrounding woods. Some hear conversations in languages or tones that are unfamiliar, while others hear urgent pleas or warnings, carried by the wind and fading as quickly as they arrive. These auditory encounters often create a sense of being watched or followed, heightening the tension for those exploring the shoreline or walking to and from the cabins after dark. The whispers sometimes appear to respond to questions or movements, giving the impression that the spirits are aware of the living and are attempting to interact, even if only fleetingly. Unseen physical interactions also contribute to Lyman Lake's haunted reputation. Several visitors have reported the sensation of a hand resting lightly on their shoulder or a gentle tug at their sleeve, occurring when no one else is nearby. These experiences are sudden, leaving the affected person startled and often prompting them to move quickly away from the area. While some interpret these sensations as environmental anomalies, many consider them evidence of spirits reaching out, lingering near the lake as if bound by unfinished business or unresolved tragedy. The natural environment of Lyman Lake amplifies these experiences. The combination of open water, wooded areas, and rocky terrain creates spaces where shadows and light interact in ways that can appear almost animate. Reflections on the water at dusk, combined with wind rustling through trees and reeds, can create illusions, but many visitors insist that the phenomena they encounter are distinct from natural effects, shadowy forms that move independently of the surrounding landscape, combined with whispers and tactile sensations, contribute to an atmosphere that is simultaneously mesmerizing and unsettling. Historical context deepens the sense of lingering presence. Lyman Lake was constructed in the early 20th century, and over the decades, the lake and surrounding park have witnessed accidents, drownings, and the daily struggles of those who lived and traveled in the area. Stories of travelers lost to the waters have been passed down through generations, with some claiming that the spirits of these individuals remain tethered to the site, unable to move on. Local legend holds that the lake remembers each life taken within it, replaying echoes of past events in subtle yet perceptible ways for those who are willing or unlucky enough to notice. Many visitors describe the haunting as a combination of visual, auditory, and sensory experiences. Figures are glimpsed along the water's edge, accompanied by faint murmurs or whispers carried on the breeze. Cabins light up as though someone has entered, yet when inspected, they are empty. These layered phenomena suggest that Lyman Lake exists as a threshold between the present and the past, where the spirits of travelers mingle with the living, maintaining a presence that is at once subtle and undeniable. Paranormal investigators have explored Lyman Lake State Park and documented occurrences consistent with local reports. Audio recordings have captured unexplained whispers, while infrared cameras have occasionally detected figures near cabins or along the shore. Temperature anomalies, flickering lights, and movement captured on video support the claims of visitors who feel the lake is more than a scenic destination. It is a place where history, tragedy, and lingering spirits converge. Skeptics often attribute these events to natural causes, imagination, or environmental factors. But the persistent consistency of experiences reported over decades lends weight to the belief that the lake is haunted. Despite the haunted reputation, Lyman Lake remains a popular destination. Daytime visitors enjoy boating, fishing, and hiking, while campers revel in the peaceful scenery. Yet those who stay into the evening may encounter the park's more mysterious side. Ghostly figures along the shore, whispers on the wind, flickering lights in deserted cabins, and the sensation of unseen hands serve as reminders that the past has not fully released its hold on this place. The park invites a careful balance of awe and caution, offering natural beauty alongside a glimpse of something beyond the ordinary. Roper Lake State Park, located near Safford, Arizona, is known for its scenic beauty. Calm waters and inviting trails that wind through the surrounding desert and grassy landscapes. By day, families picnic along the shoreline, anglers cast lines into the lake, and hikers explore the natural trails that meander through the park. Yet, as the sun dips toward the horizon and dusk settles across the water, Roper Lake reveals a different, more unsettling side. Over the years, visitors have reported a range of strange occurrences: shadows lingering near the water, cold drafts in otherwise warm areas, distant whispers that seem to float across the lake, and phantom footsteps circling tents. Many claim that these experiences are not mere imagination, but encounters with spirits that remain restless, tied to the lake and its surroundings. The lake itself is central to the park's haunted reputation. Its still waters often reflect the sunset with an eerie clarity, and some visitors report seeing shadowy forms skimming the surface or moving along the edges where the reeds and grasses grow thick. These shapes are fleeting, disappearing whenever approached or looked at directly, leaving only ripples behind as evidence of their presence. Many describe the figures as vaguely human, appearing in the distance as if watching or waiting for something. At times, the shadows seem to move in tandem with the wind, blending with the natural landscape, yet retaining a sense of intent and awareness that unsettles those who witness them. The trails surrounding the lake are another hotspot for paranormal activity. Hikers and evening walkers often recount a sensation of being followed, hearing footsteps echoing behind them even when no one is present. Some describe glimpsing shadowy figures between trees or across open meadows, visible only from the corner of the eye. These figures vanish when confronted directly, yet the impression of their presence lingers, leaving a sense of unease that follows visitors along the path. At night, the combination of long shadows, rustling leaves, and the quiet of the desert amplifies the sensation that the land itself is alive with unseen watchers. Auditory phenomena at Roper Lake are frequent and unnerving. Visitors often report whispers drifting across the water, voices calling their names, or unintelligible murmurs that seem to come from nowhere. Some describe hearing laughter or quiet conversations echoing from empty spaces, while others speak of sudden, sharp noises, branches snapping, pebbles shifting, or soft taps against tents or cabins that appear to have no natural cause. The whispers sometimes seem to respond to movements or questions, as if the spirits are aware of the living and are attempting some form of communication, however fleeting or cryptic. Campers, in particular, report strong physical sensations associated with the hauntings. Phantom footsteps circling tents at night are among the most common experiences, creating a sense of being observed or accompanied by unseen presences. Some campers describe cold drafts brushing against them, or the feeling of an invisible hand on a shoulder or arm, prompting them to awaken or leave their tents in fear. These encounters often occur in the quiet hours before dawn, when the stillness of the park allows even the faintest sounds or movements to feel amplified and threatening. Many who experience these phenomena describe an overwhelming sense that the lake and surrounding trails are alive with spirits that cannot find peace. Historical context adds depth to the stories surrounding Roper Lake. The area has long been inhabited, with Native American tribes, early settlers, and travelers traversing the land and relying on its waters. Accidents, drownings, and other misfortunes occurred over the decades, leaving behind a legacy of lives interrupted. Local lore holds that these events may have left an imprint on the environment, a kind of residual energy that manifests as shadows, whispers, and cold spots. Visitors often sense a connection to this history, perceiving the park not only as a natural haven but as a repository of memories, emotions, and unfinished business from the past. Visual, auditory, and sensory experiences often intertwine at Roper Lake, creating encounters that feel immersive and real. Shadows appear along the shoreline, accompanied by whispers or murmurs carried on the wind. Figures move between trees or across open fields, vanishing when approached. Cold drafts, touches, and unexplained sounds add a physical dimension to the haunting, reinforcing the presence of entities that exist alongside, yet separate from, the living. These layers of phenomena suggest that the lake and trails function as a threshold between the natural and the supernatural, where visitors can glimpse the lingering traces of those who came before. The natural environment enhances these experiences. Water reflecting the moonlight, long shadows cast by trees and desert foliage, and the quiet of the trails all contribute to the perception of otherworldly activity. Even mundane noises, the ripple of water, the rustle of leaves, or the distant call of wildlife can take on an uncanny quality in the context of the park's haunted reputation. Visitors often describe a heightened awareness at dusk, when the boundary between day and night, light and shadow, feels especially thin. Paranormal investigations at Roper Lake have documented several unexplained phenomena, including faint audio recordings of whispers, temperature fluctuations along the shoreline, and visual anomalies captured on video. while skeptics suggest natural causes or the power of suggestion. The consistency and frequency of reports lend credibility to claims of a persistent spiritual presence. Many visitors leave the park with stories of encounters that are difficult to explain, combining the beauty of the setting with the thrill and unease of something unseen nearby. Despite its haunted reputation, Roper Lake State Park continues to attract campers, hikers, and anglers. Its waters and trails offer recreation and relaxation by day, but at dusk, the park takes on a more mysterious character. Shadows near the water, whispers along the trails, flickering lights, and phantom footsteps create an atmosphere where history, tragedy, and the supernatural converge. For those who venture into the park after dark, Roper Lake offers not only natural beauty, but an encounter with the lingering presence of spirits silently observing, interacting, and forever tied to the waters and paths of the state park. Saguaro Lake Park, located near Mesa, Arizona, is a scenic destination known for its striking desert landscapes, towering saguaro cacti, and tranquil waters. By day, the park attracts families, anglers, and hikers who enjoy boating on the lake, exploring desert trails, or simply taking in the panoramic views. Yet, as the sun sinks below the horizon and shadows stretch across the desert, Saguaro Lake reveals a more mysterious side. For decades, visitors have reported strange occurrences at dusk, shadowy figures moving among the cacti, whispers carried by the evening wind, phantom footsteps along the trails, and fleeting shapes near the water's edge. Many who experience these phenomena believe they are witnessing spirits of travelers who never returned home, their presence lingering in the desert long after their disappearance. The lake itself is central to the park's haunted reputation. Visitors often describe seeing dark figures along the shoreline, vanishing whenever approached. Some report seeing silhouettes reflected in the water that do not correspond to any living person nearby. Others speak of movements beneath the surface, subtle ripples that appear when no wind or animal disturbance is present. These fleeting images create a sense of unease, particularly during the quiet moments at dusk, when the desert's vast expanse amplifies every sound and movement. The combination of light fading, water reflecting the evening sky, and shadows cast by the towering cacti produces an atmosphere that seems both beautiful and otherworldly, where the line between reality and the supernatural blurs. The surrounding desert trails are also known for unexplained phenomena. Hikers and evening walkers report the sensation of being followed, footsteps echoing behind them on empty paths, and occasional glimpses of figures moving between the cacti or across rocky outcroppings. These shapes often vanish when approached, leaving no trace other than the lingering sense of being watched. Some visitors describe the figures as vaguely human, appearing in old-fashioned clothing, as if frozen in time from an earlier era. The fleeting encounters evoke a sense of history pressing against the present, hinting at lives interrupted or journeys left unfinished. Auditory experiences at Saguaro Lake Park are particularly eerie. Visitors frequently hear whispers drifting across the water or through the desert flora, voices calling names or murmuring unintelligible phrases. Some describe faint laughter, the sound of conversations, or urgent warnings carried by the wind. These sounds often seem to respond to movement or attention, as if the spirits are aware of the living and are trying to communicate. Others report hearing footsteps or rustling among the cacti when the trails are otherwise empty. The auditory phenomena, combined with visual sightings, reinforce the sense that the park is not merely a scenic desert area, but a place where unseen presences linger. The flora and fauna of the park also seem to react to these presences. Animals, particularly dogs and birds, are often reported to behave strangely near dusk, barking at unseen figures or remaining unusually still, as if sensing something invisible. Visitors have recounted instances of birds suddenly taking flight or desert wildlife pausing as though aware of an unseen observer. Even the rustling of cacti and desert brush seems heightened during these hours, creating the impression that the environment itself participates in the haunting. These subtle reactions of nature add another layer to the experiences, making the presence of spirits feel tangible and intertwined with the landscape. Historical context contributes to Saguaro Lake Park's reputation. The area has long been traveled by settlers, Native American tribes, and early pioneers navigating the desert. Stories of travelers lost, accidents along the water, and people who never returned to their homes have been preserved in local lore. It is believed that these spirits remain tethered to the land, their energy lingering in the shadows, on the trails, and along the water. The idea that those who vanished may continue to wander the desert is reinforced by repeated reports over the decades, making the park a place where history, tragedy, and the supernatural converge. Visitors often describe experiences that combine multiple senses. Shadows flit among the cacti, accompanied by whispers carried on the wind, while cold drafts brush against the skin, even in the otherwise warm desert evening. Phantom footsteps circle campsites or echo along empty trails, and figures may appear and disappear at the water's edge. Guests report feelings of being watched, the hair on their arms rising, and a compulsion to leave certain areas at night, as if respecting the presence of those who linger. Paranormal investigators have explored Saguaro Lake Park and recorded unusual activity. Audio devices have captured whispers and faint footsteps, while infrared cameras have occasionally detected figures moving among the cacti or along the shoreline. While skeptics attribute some reports to imagination or natural phenomena, the consistency of sightings and auditory anomalies supports the idea that Saguaro Lake is more than a recreational area, is a place where lingering spirits interact with the living, even if only subtly. Despite its haunted reputation, the park continues to attract visitors for its natural beauty and recreational opportunities. Boaters, hikers, and campers enjoy the lake and trails by day, while those who remain into the evening often encounter the park's more mysterious elements. Catalina State Park, located at the base of the majestic Santa Catalina Mountains near Tucson, Arizona, is celebrated for its sweeping desert landscapes, towering saguaros, an extensive network of hiking trails. By day, the park is alive with the sounds of nature birds calling across the desert, lizards scuttling over rocks, and hikers' footsteps crunching along dusty paths. Yet, as the sun dips below the mountains and the desert shadows lengthen, Catalina Park reveals a more mysterious and unsettling side. For years, visitors have reported strange occurrences at dusk and after dark. Shadowy figures that vanish among the towering cacti, cold spots along quiet trails, whispers that drift on the wind, and soft cries that seem to emerge from nowhere. Many hikers and campers have described a profound sensation of being watched or followed, a feeling so strong that they hurriedly left the park to escape it. The desert landscape itself plays a central role in these haunting experiences. Catalina State Park is defined by its dense saguaro forests, rocky outcroppings, and narrow canyon trails. Shadows stretch and twist as the sun sets, creating shapes that seem alive, shifting in ways that defy normal perception. Visitors often report seeing figures flit between cacti, lingering just long enough to be glimpsed from the corner of the eye before disappearing entirely. These sightings are typically accompanied by an eerie stillness, as though the desert itself is holding its breath. Some witnesses insist that the shapes resemble human forms, appearing as wandering travelers or hikers from decades past, frozen in moments of unfinished business or lost journeys. Auditory phenomena are a frequent feature of Catalina Park's supernatural reputation. Many visitors have heard faint whispers carried across the desert floor, voices that call their names, murmur warnings, or speak in tones that are hard to place. Some describe the sounds of soft crying, especially near rocky outcrops or isolated trail junctions, often vanishing when approached. Footsteps echoing along empty paths are also commonly reported. Hikers may feel the rhythmic crunch of shoes behind them, only to turn and find no one there. These auditory experiences are often reported alongside visual sightings, heightening the sense that something unseen is actively present in the park, aware of those who wander its trails. Cold spots and sudden changes in temperature contribute to the unsettling atmosphere. Visitors frequently report brief chills along otherwise warm desert paths, particularly near shaded canyons or areas densely populated with cacti. These sudden drops in temperature often coincide with sightings of shadowy figures or moments when whispers are heard. Many hikers describe a sensation of being followed, accompanied by an inexplicable awareness of an unseen presence moving along the trail behind them. The combination of cold air, auditory anomalies, and fleeting visuals creates an immersive experience that leaves an indelible impression on those who encounter it. The park's history adds weight to these reports. Catalina State Park lies within an area long inhabited by Native American tribes, including the Hohokam and Tohono O'odham, who traveled, hunted, and lived across the desert landscape. Over time, settlers, ranchers, and travelers moved through the region, some of whom met misfortune or never returned from their journeys. Local legends suggest that the spirits of those lost in the desert remain tethered to the land, their presence lingering among the saguaros, rocky trails, and shaded canyons. Visitors often sense a connection to this history, feeling that the park is a place where the past and present intersect, and where lives interrupted long ago continue to echo in the desert. Campers and hikers have described encounters that combine multiple senses. Figures are glimpsed between cacti or behind rocky outcroppings, accompanied by whispers or faint cries. Cold drafts brush along arms and shoulders, often when no wind is present. Phantom footsteps echo around tents or along narrow trails, producing a sense of being followed or observed. Many recount an intense feeling of unease, as if invisible eyes are tracking their every move. These layered experiences, visual, auditory, and sensory, create encounters that feel tangible, immersive, and inescapable. The park's natural features amplify these effects. The jagged cliffs and boulder-strewn trails cast shadows that shift dramatically as daylight fades. The dense saguaro forests create isolated pockets of darkness where echoes carry unusually well. The combination of natural acoustics and complex terrain allows even the smallest sound to take on an uncanny quality. Reflective surfaces, such as small desert pools or smooth rocks, occasionally produce optical illusions, making fleeting shapes or figures appear where none exist. Yet many visitors are adamant that what they experienced is distinct from natural effects, describing movements and interactions that seem purposeful rather than coincidental. Paranormal enthusiasts have investigated Catalina State Park, capturing audio and visual anomalies that corroborate visitor reports. Recordings have captured faint whispers, soft footsteps, and other unexplained sounds in areas where no one is present. Infrared and night vision cameras have occasionally detected figures moving among the cacti or along trails, appearing briefly before vanishing. While skeptics attribute many of these phenomena to imagination, fatigue, or environmental factors, the consistency of reports over decades suggests that something unusual persists in the park after dark. Despite its haunted reputation, Catalina State Park remains a popular destination for outdoor recreation. Daytime visitors enjoy hiking, bird watching, and exploring the desert landscapes, while those who linger into the evening may encounter the park's more mysterious elements. Shadows among the cacti, whispers carried by the wind, phantom footsteps on the trails, and fleeting figures along the water's edge remind visitors that Catalina Park is not only a place of natural beauty, but also a site where history and the supernatural converge. Sabino Canyon Recreation Area, nestled at the base of the Santa Catalina Mountains near Tucson, Arizona, is renowned for its breathtaking desert landscapes, winding trails, and rushing streams. The sun illuminates the towering saguaros and rugged cliffs, casting dramatic shadows across the desert floor. Yet, as daylight fades and the shadows lengthen, Sabino Canyon reveals a more unsettling and mysterious side. For decades, visitors have reported eerie experiences, ghostly figures moving along trails, footsteps echoing where no one walks, whispers emanating from canyon walls, and shadows darting behind rocks. Many hikers and evening explorers describe an intense sensation of being watched or followed, and some have fled the canyon in fear after experiencing the presence of unseen spirits. The canyon's trails are central to its reputation for hauntings. Visitors often recount walking along quiet paths only to hear the crunch of footsteps behind them, though when they turn, no one is there. The sound of movement can seem deliberate, echoing off rock walls in ways that make the listener feel as though they are being stalked. Some hikers report fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures disappearing around corners or behind boulders. These figures are often described as vaguely human, sometimes appearing in old-fashioned clothing or as travelers lost long ago, giving the impression that they are echoes of lives interrupted. The sensation of being followed can be so strong that hikers abandon their planned routes, hastening back to the trailhead in fear. Auditory phenomena are particularly unsettling at Sabino Canyon. Many visitors report whispers drifting from the canyon walls, soft voices speaking unintelligible words, or distant murmurs that seem to come from nowhere. Some describe hearing names called out in hushed tones, often coinciding with moments of visual disturbance. Others recount the sounds of soft crying or urgent warnings carried by the wind, creating an overwhelming sense of unease. Even when the canyon is empty, these auditory experiences make hikers feel that the land itself is alive with unseen observers, entities tied to the canyon and its long history. The rocky landscape of Sabino Canyon enhances the supernatural atmosphere. Narrow passages, towering cliffs, and scattered boulders create pockets of shadow where light fades quickly as the sun sets. Shadows cast by rocks and cacti twist and shift in ways that appear alive, sometimes forming humanoid shapes that vanish when approached. Pools of water reflect the darkening sky, occasionally revealing fleeting figures that seem to move independently of natural reflections. These visual cues, combined with the auditory phenomena, intensify the impression that visitors are encountering something beyond the ordinary, something rooted in the canyon's past. Cold spots and sudden temperature changes are commonly reported by those who linger in the canyon after dusk. Walkers describe a sudden chill along an otherwise warm trail, often coinciding with a visual or auditory event. Some report feeling an unseen hand brush against them, or the sensation of a presence moving closely behind them. These experiences often leave hikers with a heightened sense of alertness, their pulse quickening as the desert's quiet amplifies every sound and movement. The combination of temperature anomalies, whispers, and shadowy figures creates a multi-sensory experience that convinces many that Sabino Canyon is more than a natural landscape, is a place where spirits linger. Historical context contributes to the canyon's eerie reputation. Sabino Canyon has been inhabited and traveled by Native American tribes, early settlers, and miners over centuries. Many legends speak of travelers who disappeared while exploring the canyon or attempting to cross its rugged terrain. Locals believe that the spirits of those lost individuals remain bound to the land and the rocky trails they once walked. These lingering presences are thought to replay moments of their lives, sometimes trapping visitors in fear by reenacting past tragedies or creating the illusion of being pursued. Hikers often report a sense that the canyon is alive with memories, that each rock and shadow holds fragments of stories long forgotten. Campers and evening hikers frequently describe experiences that combine visual, auditory, and physical sensations. Shadowy figures are glimpsed between rocks or along narrow paths, accompanied by whispers or faint cries. Cold drafts sweep along trails or across tent sites, and phantom footsteps echo in areas where no one is present. Many report an overwhelming feeling of being watched, a sensation that persists long after the figures vanish. These encounters create a layered, immersive experience, leaving visitors with a lingering sense of the supernatural presence that inhabits the canyon. The natural features of Sabino Canyon amplify these experiences. The canyon walls reflect and distort sounds, making whispers and footsteps carry unusually far. The interplay of light and shadow as the sun sets produces optical illusions that can make rocks and cacti appear animated. Even small desert pools can mirror fleeting shapes that vanish when approached. These elements of the environment, combined with the historical weight of the land, make Sabino Canyon a place where natural beauty and supernatural phenomena coexist. Paranormal investigators have documented unusual activity in Sabino Canyon, capturing audio recordings of unexplained whispers and footsteps. as well as infrared and night vision footage of figures moving along trails or near rocks, while skeptics suggest natural causes or the power of imagination. The consistency and frequency of reports support the notion that the canyon holds lingering presences. Visitors leave with stories that blend awe at the desert landscape with the thrill and unease of encountering something unseen. Despite its haunted reputation, Sabino Canyon remains a popular destination for outdoor recreation. Daytime visitors enjoy hiking, wildlife observation, and the serenity of the desert, while those who explore the trails into the evening may encounter its more mysterious aspects. Shadowy figures darting between rocks, whispers carried across the canyon, cold drafts along the paths, and phantom footsteps create a haunting presence that lingers long after dark. Picacho Peak State Park, located between Phoenix and Tucson, Arizona, is famous for its striking desert scenery, dramatic rock formations, and historic significance. The park's centerpiece, Picacho Peak, rises sharply from the desert floor, a solitary landmark visible for miles. Hikers and nature enthusiasts are drawn to its trails for panoramic views of the Sonoran Desert. But beneath its natural beauty lies a more eerie and haunting presence. For decades, visitors have reported strange occurrences on the slopes and along the trails, shadowy figures moving along ridges, whispers carried by the desert wind, and sudden cold drafts in the otherwise warm air. Many hikers describe the unsettling feeling of being watched, and some have fled in fear after encountering apparitions at dusk. The park's history is central to its reputation. Picacho Peak was the site of a Civil War skirmish between Union and Confederate forces in 1862, and the spirits of soldiers who fought and died on its slopes are said to linger. Visitors often report seeing shadowy figures climbing or descending the steep trails, sometimes moving as if engaged in a march or battle formation. These figures appear fleetingly, vanishing when approached, leaving only the sensation that someone or something is nearby. The shape and posture of the apparitions often resemble soldiers from the 19th century, with some hikers describing vague outlines of hats and uniforms. The presence of these figures creates a sense of historical weight, as if the past is replaying itself across the desert landscape. Auditory experiences at Picacho Peak are particularly eerie. Hikers have reported hearing faint whispers carried on the wind, voices that call out names or issue warnings in tones that seem both urgent and distant. Some describe the sounds of marching or the clatter of what could be imagined as soldiers' boots on rocky paths. Others recount hearing the sharp report of phantom gunfire or the distant rumble of battle echoing through the canyons. These auditory phenomena often coincide with visual sightings, creating a multisensory experience that convinces visitors that the peak is not simply a natural landmark, but a space imbued with lingering energies. The natural landscape amplifies these haunting experiences. Picacho Peak's steep slopes, jagged ridges, and rocky outcrops create shifting shadows as the sun sets, producing shapes that appear to move with purpose. Narrow canyons and crevices can distort sound, allowing whispers or footsteps to carry far beyond their origin. The desert air, cool at dawn and dusk, can produce sudden cold drafts along trails, sometimes accompanied by the sensation of an unseen presence brushing past. These environmental factors, combined with the area's historical significance, enhance the feeling that the park is alive with echoes from the past. Hikers have described encounters that combine sight, sound, and sensation. Shadowy figures are glimpsed moving along ridges or between boulders. Whispers drift through the air, and sudden chills brush against skin. Some have felt the weight of invisible eyes upon them, a sensation that causes the heart to race and the steps to quicken. These experiences often leave an indelible impression, as visitors struggle to reconcile the beauty of the desert with the chilling presence of spirits from a long-past conflict. Many recount turning back from the summit, even after a long hike, because of the intensity of the apparitions and the unsettling sounds that accompany them. Picacho Peak's trails are particularly prone to these experiences at dusk, when the light fades and shadows deepen. The fading sun casts elongated shapes across the desert floor, creating illusions that can resemble human figures. Pools of water along the trails reflect twilight shadows, sometimes revealing movements that vanish when directly observed. These visual cues, coupled with auditory anomalies and temperature changes, produce an immersive environment that makes the supernatural presence feel tangible. The combination of natural and historical elements transforms a simple hike into an encounter that blends reality with the echoes of the past. Animals in the park also appear sensitive to these unusual occurrences. Dogs accompanying hikers may bark at unseen figures, while birds and desert wildlife sometimes exhibit sudden agitation, taking flight from areas where no human is present. These reactions further reinforce the impression that Picacho Peak is more than a scenic desert formation. It is a place where unseen entities interact with both the living and the natural environment. Paranormal investigators have explored Picacho Peak and documented unusual phenomena. Audio recordings have captured whispers and footsteps in locations where no one is present, and infrared cameras have occasionally recorded figures moving along trails or across ridges. While skeptics argue that shadows, wind, and imagination account for many experiences, the consistency and historical context of sightings lend credibility to the notion that the park is haunted. Visitors often leave with stories of encounters that combine fear, and respect for the desert's enduring mysteries. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Picacho Peak remains a popular destination for hikers, nature lovers, and history enthusiasts. Daytime visitors enjoy the park's trails, observing the desert flora and fauna, and taking in the dramatic views from the summit. Those who venture into the park at dusk, however, may encounter its more mysterious side. Shadowy figures climbing the slopes, whispers carried by the wind, phantom footsteps along trails, and cold drafts in the otherwise warm air serve as reminders that the peak is not only a natural landmark, but also a space where history lingers and spirits of soldiers from long-past battles continue to roam. Tonto Creek Campground, nestled in the forested landscapes of Payson, Arizona, is a popular destination for campers, hikers, and nature enthusiasts seeking a peaceful retreat along the meandering waters of Tonto Creek. By day, the campground is alive with the sounds of flowing water, birdsong, and the laughter of families exploring the trails. Towering pines and dense foliage create shaded nooks along the creek, offering solitude and quiet reflection. Yet, as daylight fades and the forest darkens, Tonto Creek Campground takes on a more mysterious and unsettling character. For decades, visitors have reported ghostly encounters that defy explanation. Shadowy figures moving silently along the water's edge, whispers drifting across the creek, and sudden cold drafts in otherwise warm campsites. Many have felt an unseen presence, and some campers have fled after experiencing apparitions in the trees or along the creek. The creek itself is central to the haunting phenomena. Visitors often describe hearing faint whispers or murmurs that seem to emanate from the flowing water, as if the creek itself is speaking. The sound of rushing water amplifies these whispers, carrying them down the creek and through the campsites in ways that make it difficult to determine their origin. Others have reported hearing the gentle crunch of footsteps along the banks, as if someone is walking just out of sight. Yet when they look, the banks are empty. These auditory experiences are often accompanied by visual sightings of shadowy forms that appear briefly along the water or among the trees, vanishing when approached. Shadows in the forest are a recurring feature of Tonto Creek's haunted reputation. Campers frequently describe dark figures that seem to move with purpose through the trees, slipping between trunks and darting behind foliage. These shapes are rarely stationary, often seen gliding across campsites or following trails along the creek, always disappearing before direct observation. Some witnesses believe these are spirits of people who may have perished near the creek, lingering in the area long after their time. Cold drafts are another commonly reported phenomenon. Visitors often note sudden chills along otherwise warm forest trails or across open campsites, especially near the creek or in dense clusters of trees. These temperature shifts frequently coincide with sightings of shadowy figures or auditory experiences, reinforcing the impression of an unseen presence. Campers have described the sensation of invisible hands brushing past their arms or shoulders, leaving a lingering awareness of someone or something nearby. The combination of visual, auditory, and physical sensations creates an immersive and unsettling experience that many find difficult to shake even after leaving the campground. The natural layout of Tonto Creek Campground enhances its eerie atmosphere. The dense forest, narrow trails, and rocky creek banks create pockets of darkness and shadow where light fades quickly after sunset. The forest canopy carries sound in unpredictable ways, allowing whispers and footsteps to travel far and distort directionally. Reflections on the creek's surface sometimes create fleeting images of figures that vanish upon closer inspection. These natural elements, when combined with the historical and anecdotal weight of the campground, create an environment ripe for ghostly encounters. History adds depth to the sense of lingering spirits at Tonto Creek. The Payson area has long been inhabited by Native American tribes, and later by settlers, ranchers, and travelers passing through the forested terrain. Many of these early inhabitants faced harsh conditions, some never returning from journeys along the creek or the surrounding trails. Locals tell stories of people lost in the woods, accidents along the creek, and unexplained tragedies. It is believed that the spirits of those who met untimely ends remain tethered to the area, visible or audible only to those who venture into the campground after dusk. These lingering presences are often described as replaying moments of their past, manifesting as shadowy figures or disembodied voices that make visitors feel both watched and unwelcome. Campers' accounts frequently combine multiple sensory experiences. Figures are glimpsed moving among trees or along the creek's edge, accompanied by whispers or faint cries. Many visitors report an overwhelming sensation of being followed, a feeling that persists long after the figures vanish or the whispers fade. Some hikers have recounted seeing shapes that mimic their movements, only to disappear when looked at directly, leaving a lasting impression of the supernatural intertwined with the natural environment. Animals in the area also appear sensitive to the unusual activity. Dogs accompanying campers may bark or whine at empty spaces, while deer, birds, or other wildlife may suddenly scatter from areas where no visible threat exists. These reactions lend further credence to the belief that Tonto Creek Campground hosts entities beyond ordinary human perception, interacting with both visitors and the environment in ways that defy explanation. Paranormal investigators have explored the campground and documented phenomena consistent with visitor reports. Audio recordings have captured whispers and faint footsteps in locations devoid of people, and night vision footage occasionally reveals figures moving along trails or near the water. While skeptics argue that many experiences can be attributed to imagination, environmental effects, or fatigue, the regularity and consistency of reports suggest that Tonto Creek is a site where the unexplained lingers. Despite its haunted reputation, Tonto Creek Campground remains a beloved destination for outdoor recreation. Daytime visitors enjoy hiking, fishing, and the beauty of the forested creek, while those who venture into the campground after dusk may encounter its more mysterious side. Shadowy figures among the trees, whispers carried across the water, phantom footsteps on trails, and cold drafts in otherwise warm air combine to create a haunting experience that lingers in memory. Coconino National Forest, sprawling across northern Arizona near Flagstaff, is renowned for its towering ponderosa pines, rugged canyons, and vibrant red rock formations. By day, the forest is alive with hikers, bikers, and families exploring the trails, streams, and scenic overlooks. The crisp mountain air, filtered sunlight through the trees, and distant calls of wildlife create a sense of calm and serenity. Yet, for those who venture deeper into certain trails or remain after dusk, the forest reveals a far darker and more mysterious side. Visitors have long reported experiences that suggest the presence of spirit shadows darting across paths, phantom voices calling names, and strange flickering lights among the trees. Some hikers and campers have fled in fear after sensing unseen eyes watching them, while others recount encounters so vivid they could not ignore them. The trails themselves are central to the forest's haunted reputation. Hikers often describe walking along narrow paths when sudden movements catch their eye, shadows flitting between trees, vanishing before a second glance. These fleeting figures appear human in shape, but lack distinct features, sometimes seeming to mimic the movements of the living. Campers have reported seeing shapes move along ridges or disappearing behind boulders, only to reappear in another location. The impression is that the forest is alive with unseen observers, spirits of lost travelers who wander the same trails they once traversed in life. Auditory phenomena in Coconino National Forest are especially unsettling. Many hikers and campers report hearing voices that call their names, whispers drifting from dense thickets, or faint conversations that cease when approached. Some describe hearing footfalls on leaf-strewn paths, even when no one else is present, and distant laughter that echoes eerily through the trees. On several occasions, campers have heard sounds resembling the snapping of twigs or the soft dragging of feet across forest debris, only to find nothing when investigating. These experiences often coincide with visual sightings, creating an immersive encounter that convinces visitors they are not alone. Eerie lights are another recurring element of the forest's supernatural reputation. People have reported seeing small, flickering lights among the treetops or along the trails, seemingly hovering in place before vanishing. Some describe them as lantern-like glows, reminiscent of figures from long ago, while others see quick flashes that appear to move with purpose. These lights are often reported at twilight or after dark, adding to the unsettling atmosphere that transforms the forest from a scenic wonder into a landscape of mystery. Physical sensations also play a role in these experiences. Campers frequently describe sudden cold drafts along otherwise warm trails, chills that sweep across tents, or the sensation of unseen presences brushing past them. Many report feeling watched, as though multiple pairs of eyes follow every movement. These physical cues, combined with auditory and visual anomalies, heighten the sense that the forest holds more than its natural beauty. It holds lingering echoes of those who once traveled its paths. The history of Coconino National Forest contributes to its haunted reputation. Over centuries, the land has been inhabited and traversed by Native American tribes, settlers, miners, and early explorers. Many stories speak of travelers who never returned from the dense woods, victims of accidents, lost trails, or natural hazards. Locals believe that these individual spirits remain tied to the forest, appearing to the living as shadowy figures, flickering lights, or auditory anomalies. Some hikers report that the spirits seem to reenact moments from their lives, silently wandering the paths and retracing the trails where they once walked. Nighttime amplifies these haunting experiences. As the sun sets, the forest transforms the trees, cast long, twisting shadows, and the canopy absorbs most of the remaining light. Trails that seemed straightforward by day can appear labyrinthine at night, with shadows moving along them as if alive. Waterways and clearings can reflect lights or shapes that vanish when approached, while distant calls or whispers echo unnaturally, carried far along the forest floor. Hikers at dusk often report a profound sense of unease. The feeling that they are not merely passing through the forest, but are being watched by unseen entities. Animals in the forest occasionally seem to react to these presences. Dogs accompanying campers may growl or bark at empty spaces, while birds or deer suddenly flee without obvious cause. These reactions add another layer of evidence for those who believe that Coconino National Forest is home to lingering spirits, reinforcing the idea that the natural world itself senses the unseen presences inhabiting the area. Paranormal investigators have visited Coconino National Forest and documented phenomena consistent with these reports. Audio recordings capture unexplained whispers, while infrared cameras sometimes reveal movement along trails that cannot be attributed to living visitors. Skeptics argue that shadows, wind, and imagination account for many experiences, but the consistency and vividness of accounts from hikers and campers over decades suggest that the forest is a site of repeated, unexplained activity. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Coconino National Forest remains a highly visited natural attraction. Daytime visitors enjoy hiking, photography, and the serenity of towering pines and rugged canyons, while those who venture into the forest at dusk or camp overnight may encounter its more mysterious aspects. Shadowy figures among the trees, whispers carried by the wind, cold drafts along the trails, and flickering lights create an atmosphere that blends the beauty of the natural world with the lingering presence of spirits from the past. White Tank Mountain Regional Park, near Waddell, Arizona, is a popular destination for hikers, nature enthusiasts, and families seeking the rugged beauty of the Sonoran Desert. By day, the park is a place of breathtaking views, towering saguaros, and winding trails that lead through rocky washes and across desert hills. The landscape is serene, the air warm, and the sounds of wildlife create a calming backdrop for those exploring its paths. Yet, as dusk approaches, a different atmosphere settles over the park, one that has long given rise to stories of the unexplained. Visitors frequently report seeing shadows moving along desert trails, hearing whispers carried by the wind, and feeling sudden cold drafts that seem impossible in the still warm desert air. Some hikers even claim the unsettling sensation of being followed by invisible figures, leaving them to abandon their routes and return to safety before nightfall. The desert terrain itself plays a key role in these eerie experiences. The park's rugged hills, narrow washes, and dense clusters of cacti create natural pockets of shadow as the sun sets. As the light fades, these shadows lengthen and shift in ways that can appear purposeful, moving across the paths and rocky slopes in unnatural ways. Hikers have described fleeting figures glimpsed from the corners of their eyes, silhouettes that vanish when directly observed, or shapes that seem to glide silently along ridges. This interplay of light and shadow, combined with the vast openness of the desert, creates a feeling that the landscape itself is alive with unseen watchers, heightening the sense of unease. Auditory phenomena are a hallmark of the park's haunted reputation. Many visitors report hearing whispers carried on the wind, faint voices that seem to echo from distant washes or from the spaces between saguaros. Some hikers describe the whispers as urgent, as if warning them to leave, while others interpret them as mournful, repeating messages from the past. The sounds often seem to follow hikers along the trails, appearing to move in tandem with them. In some instances, the whispers are accompanied by the soft rustle of rocks or leaves, as if someone or something is walking silently nearby. These auditory anomalies add a sense of immediacy to the experience, making the desert feel inhabited by unseen presences. Cold drafts and sudden temperature shifts further contribute to the park's unsettling ambience. Visitors frequently notice chills that brush across their arms and shoulders, often in areas where the surrounding air remains warm. These drafts tend to occur along narrow paths, near washes, or around large boulders, and they are often reported alongside sightings of shadowy figures or the sound of whispers. The physical sensation of cold air, coupled with visual and auditory phenomena, leaves hikers feeling exposed and vulnerable, reinforcing the impression that they are not alone in the desert. The history of White Tank Mountain Regional Park and its surrounding area provides context for these haunting experiences. The land has long been inhabited by Native American peoples, including the Hohokam and Yavapai tribes, and later traversed by settlers and explorers navigating the rugged terrain. Accounts of accidents, misadventures, and sudden disappearances are part of the region's historical record. Local legend holds that the spirits of those who perished remain, wandering the desert trails and watching over those who follow the same paths. Visitors often interpret the moving shadows, whispers, and cold drafts as remnants of these past lives, replaying moments from long ago or observing intruders on familiar trails. Sightings at White Tank Mountain are often brief but impactful. Hikers report seeing dark silhouettes moving between rocks or perched on ridges, only to vanish when approached. Shadows can appear along washes or behind saguaros, sometimes seeming to follow a person along the trail before disappearing entirely. The fleeting nature of these encounters creates a sense of disorientation, as if the desert itself shifts and moves in response to the presence of the living. Animals in the park occasionally respond to these unseen presences. Dogs may growl at empty spaces, and birds or small mammals suddenly scatter without visible cause. These reactions reinforce the idea that something beyond human perception inhabits the park, interacting subtly with both wildlife and hikers. Despite these eerie experiences, White Tank Mountain remains a destination for outdoor enthusiasts seeking hiking, wildlife, and scenic vistas. By day, the desert is inviting, vibrant, and safe. But as dusk falls, the park reveals a more mysterious side. Shadows that move along paths, whispers on the wind, sudden cold drafts, and the sensation of being followed create an environment that is both unsettling and unforgettable. Usery Mountain Regional Park, located in Mesa, Arizona, is a desert oasis known for its striking mountain ridges, rugged hiking trails, and abundant desert flora. By day, the park draws hikers, families, and outdoor enthusiasts eager to explore the sprawling trails, view the saguaros, and enjoy panoramic vistas of the Sonoran Desert. Yet as the sun dips below the horizon, a different side of the park emerges. Visitors have long reported unsettling occurrences after dusk shadows that seem to move with a mind of their own, whispers drifting through the cacti, and sudden cold spots along trails where the desert air should remain warm. Some hikers recount the chilling sensation of footsteps following them, echoing along the paths but never matching their own, prompting many to leave the park before nightfall. The desert landscape of Usery Mountain enhances the park's haunted reputation. The trails wind through rocky hills, washes, and clusters of towering saguaros, creating natural pockets of darkness and shadow as evening falls. As light fades, shadows stretch across paths and between boulders, sometimes appearing to move independently, as if tracking the steps of hikers. Visitors have described fleeting figures glimpsed in peripheral vision silhouettes that vanish when directly observed, or shapes that seem to glide silently along ridges or among the cacti. The desert, usually serene and still, takes on a more ominous character at twilight, leaving hikers feeling watched or followed. Whispers are a recurring feature of the park's eerie ambience. Many report faint voices carried by the wind, sometimes calling names, issuing warnings, or murmuring indistinct phrases. The sound often seems to originate from multiple directions at once, echoing across washes, between hills, and through dense stands of cacti. Campers and hikers alike have noted that these whispers intensify when paths narrow or when they pause, amplifying the sense that unseen presences are nearby. Some describe the whispers as mournful, like remnants of long-lost travelers replaying their final moments, while others hear them as urgent, warning intruders to move along or leave the area. Cold spots and sudden shifts in temperature add a physical dimension to these supernatural encounters. Hikers frequently feel chills along the trails, even when the surrounding air remains warm. Some describe brief, intense gusts of cold that brush past their arms or shoulders, leaving a lingering sense of unease. These drafts often coincide with sightings of shadowy figures or whispered voices, reinforcing the impression that the desert is not empty but inhabited by presences invisible to the eye. Many visitors report that the feeling of being watched grows stronger in areas where cold drafts are most pronounced, heightening tension and fear as night approaches. The history of the area adds depth to the haunting experiences reported at Usery Mountain. The desert has long been home to Native American peoples, including the Hohokam, who left behind trails, ruins, and artifacts. Later, settlers and travelers traversed the rugged terrain, sometimes facing misfortune, injury, or disappearance. Local legends suggest that the spirits of those who perished remain tied to the desert landscape, appearing as shadowy figures, whispering from the cacti, or creating sensations of cold drafts and unseen footsteps. These lingering presences are often interpreted as echoes of the past, replaying moments from centuries ago or observing the living who pass along the same trails. Visual encounters at Usery Mountain frequently involve fleeting figures with indistinct shapes. Hikers report seeing silhouettes moving across washes or perched on ridges, only to vanish when approached. Some figures appear humanoid, while others are more ambiguous, forming dark patches of movement in peripheral vision. The combination of visual, auditory, and physical sensations creates an immersive and unsettling experience, convincing many that the desert holds more than natural beauty. Auditory phenomena intensify the park's eerie atmosphere. Footsteps, faint conversations, and whispers often accompany visual sightings. Many hikers have described hearing footsteps that seem to mirror their own but never match them exactly, as if an unseen companion follows at a distance. Some report hearing the crunch of rocks underfoot or the soft scraping of leaves and brush, only to find no one present. These sounds often occur at twilight or after dark, when the desert is otherwise silent, making each noise more pronounced and disorienting. Animals in the park sometimes appear sensitive to the unseen activity. Dogs accompanying visitors may growl or whine at empty spaces, while birds or small mammals suddenly scatter without apparent cause. These reactions reinforce the sense that Eerie Mountain Regional Park is home to presences beyond ordinary perception, interacting subtly with both wildlife and humans. Despite its haunted reputation, Eerie Mountain remains a destination for outdoor enthusiasts seeking hiking, climbing, and exploration. Daytime visitors often leave with no incident, enjoying the desert vistas and natural beauty. But for those who venture along the trails as evening approaches, the park reveals a more mysterious side. Shadowy figures among the cacti, whispers on the wind, cold drafts along trails, and phantom footsteps create an immersive experience that blurs the line between reality and the supernatural. And there you have it, 25 haunted parks in Arizona, where shadows move at dusk, whispers echo through desert trails, and the past never truly fades. These parks remind us that nature can hide more than beauty, that some spirits linger in places of history, tragedy, and solitude. If this journey into Arizona's haunted parks sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another ghostly tale. Until next time, watch the shadows closely, because some of them are alive even when the sun sets.